Me and my crew of the Velvet Underworld channels would really love to hear how things are going on at your place, or you could share it to the comment sections so that we could connect with each other. Uh, we would love to build a community of people who love touching stories about mafia bosses. Now, let's enjoy today's stories, shall we?
The wrong text that started everything. Sophia Ellis thought she was texting her deadbeat ex about the child support he owed, money she desperately needed for their sick daughter's medicine. Instead, her message landed in the phone of Alessio Castelli, a man whose name alone could stop conversations in the city's darkest corners. Within seconds, he knew her address, her daughter's name, and every detail of her life. Within minutes, black SUVs surrounded her building like a military operation. One wrong text, one dangerous name. And now, Sophia's entire world was about to shatter in ways she never imagined possible. If you're ready to dive into Sophia's journey from desperate single mom to something far more dangerous and powerful, stay with me until the end. And please, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel, and your support means everything. Ishaq. The apartment was freezing. Sophia Ellis pulled the thin blanket tighter around her shoulders and stared at the thermostat she couldn't afford to adjust. Outside, rain hammered against the window of her third-floor walk-up in Queens, each gust of wind making the old glass rattle in its frame. February in New York was brutal, but February without heat was something else entirely. "Mommy, I'm cold." Emma's small voice cut through the darkness, and Sophia's heart clenched. She crossed the tiny bedroom in 3 steps and knelt beside her daughter's bed, pressing her palm against the 4-year-old's forehead. Still burning up. The fever had started yesterday morning and hadn't broken despite the children's Tylenol. Sophia had stretched to its absolute limit. "I know, baby," she whispered, smoothing Emma's damp curls back from her face. "Try to sleep, okay? Mommy's going to make everything better." It was a lie. Sophia had been lying a lot lately. To Emma, to herself, to the landlord who'd started leaving increasingly aggressive notes on her door about the rent she was 3 weeks behind on. But what else could she do? The truth was too heavy for a 4-year-old to carry, and barely manageable for Sophia herself. She returned to the living room, which was really just an extension of the kitchen, separated by a breakfast bar with 2 wobbly stools, and collapsed onto the sagging couch. Her phone sat on the coffee table, screen dark, mocking her with its silence. No calls, no texts, no miracle job offers or sudden windfalls. Just silence. And that goddamn deadbeat Michael Donovan, who hadn't paid a single dollar of child support in 6 months. Sophia grabbed her phone, her hands shaking from more than just the cold. She'd texted Michael 17 times in the past 2 weeks. 17 messages that had gone unanswered, unread, ignored while he posted pictures on social media from bars she couldn't afford to walk past, let alone drink in. Her fingers moved across the screen before her exhausted brain could stop them. "Michael, I'm not asking anymore. I'm telling you, Emma has a 103 fever, and I'm out of medicine. I need that child support now. Not tomorrow, not next week. Tonight. I don't care what you're doing or who you're with. Your daughter is sick, and you're going to step up for once in your pathetic life." She hit send and immediately felt the familiar wave of futility wash over her. He wouldn't respond. He never did. Michael Donovan was a special kind of coward, the type who could create a life and then pretend it didn't exist when it became inconvenient. Sophia set the phone down and pressed the heels of her palms against her eyes, trying to hold back tears that would accomplish nothing. She was so tired. Tired of being strong, tired of being alone, tired of working double shifts at the diner only to watch every penny disappear into rent and utilities and the endless black hole of barely surviving. Her phone buzzed. Sophia's eyes snapped open. For one wild, hopeful second, she thought maybe, just maybe, Michael had grown a conscience. She grabbed the phone and stared at the screen. "Who is this?" 2 words, not Michael's usual dismissive tone, and the number wasn't saved in her contacts. Sophia frowned, scrolling up to check the thread. Her message sat there at the top, but the number above it wasn't Michael's. The digits were similar, close enough that her exhausted, desperate fingers had clearly selected the wrong contact. Shit, she muttered, already typing an apology. But before she could send it, 3 dots appeared. Someone was typing, fast, address. Sophia's fingers froze. That wasn't a question. It was a command. 1 word, no punctuation, absolute certainty that she would comply. She deleted her apology and typed carefully. Sorry, wrong number. My mistake. The response came in seconds. Sophia Marie Ellis, 2847 Vernon Boulevard, apartment 3C, Queens. Daughter Emma Grace Ellis, age 4, fever of 103. Ex-boyfriend Michael Donovan, last known address 1432 East 7th Street. You mentioned the name Castelli in your message. I need to know why. Sophia's blood turned to ice. The phone slipped from her numb fingers and bounced on the couch cushion. Her breath came in short, sharp gasps as her brain tried to process what she'd just read. This person, whoever they were, knew her full name, her address down to the apartment number, Emma's name and age and current medical condition, Michael's address, everything. How was that possible? How could anyone know all of that from one wrong text message? And what name had she mentioned? Sophia grabbed the phone again with shaking hands and scrolled back to her original message. There, buried in her angry rant, she'd written, I don't care if you're hiding from the Castellis or the IRS or God himself. The Castellis. She'd heard the name before. Everyone in New York had heard the name before. The way you heard about storms or traffic or any other force of nature you learned to navigate around. The Castellis were old money and new violence. A family that controlled things most people pretended didn't exist. And Sophia had just accidentally texted someone who clearly knew them. Her phone buzzed again. Sophia nearly dropped it. I'm going to call you now. Answer, don't make me ask twice. The phone rang before she could even process the words. The number on the screen was the same one from the texts, and Sophia's thumb hovered over the decline button for approximately half a second before survival instinct kicked in. Whoever this was, they knew where she lived. They knew about Emma. She answered, Hello? Ms. Ellis? The voice was male, calm, and carried the kind of authority that made her spine straighten automatically. My name is Alessio Castelli. You sent me a text message 20 minutes ago mentioning my family name in connection with Michael Donovan. I need to know exactly what you know about Michael's business with the Castellis. Sophia's mouth went dry. I don't know anything. It was a figure of speech. I was angry, and I meant to text my ex, and I hit the wrong contact, and I'm so sorry. I didn't mean, where's Michael Donovan right now? I don't know. When did you last see him? 3 months ago. Maybe 4. He's not involved in Emma's life. I've been trying to get child support from him, but he won't respond to my messages or calls or... Has he contacted you recently? Sent you anything? Asked you to hold something for him? No, nothing. I swear I haven't heard from him in months. I've been texting and calling, but he ignores everything. I wouldn't even know how to reach him if it wasn't for his social media. There was a pause. Sophia could hear voices in the background, low and urgent, and what sounded like car doors slamming. Ms. Ellis, listen to me very carefully, Alessio said, and something in his tone made her breath catch. Michael Donovan stole something from my family, something extremely valuable and extremely dangerous. Multiple parties are currently looking for him, and those parties are not known for their restraint or their concern for collateral damage. Do you understand what I'm telling you? No, Sophia whispered, but she did. She absolutely did. It means anyone connected to Michael is at risk. That includes you and your daughter. The room tilted. Sophia gripped the back of the couch, her knuckles white. I'm not connected to him. We haven't been together in years. He doesn't even acknowledge Emma exists most of the time. Biology doesn't care about emotional distance, Ms. Ellis, and neither do the people looking for Michael. Another pause. I'm 3 minutes from your building. When I knock, you're going to let me in. We're going to have a conversation about what Michael may have told you, what he may have left with you, and what happens next. I can't just let a stranger into my home in the middle of the night. I'm not a stranger, Ms. Ellis. I'm the only thing standing between you and people who will hurt your daughter to get to Michael. 3 minutes. The line went dead. Sophia stood frozen in her dark apartment, phone clutched to her chest, mind racing through options she didn't have. She could call the police, and tell them what? That a man she'd accidentally texted was coming to her apartment? That she'd mentioned a name she shouldn't have and now someone dangerous wanted to talk to her? What if this Alessio Castelli was lying? What if he was the dangerous one? But he'd known everything. Her name, her address, Emma's fever. That kind of information didn't come from nowhere. Sophia moved to the window and pulled back the thin curtain. The street below was empty except for parked cars and rain and the orange glow of streetlights. Then, as she watched, a convoy of black SUVs turned onto Vernon Boulevard, moving in perfect formation like sharks. 4 vehicles, maybe 5. They rolled to a stop directly in front of her building, surrounding it in a way that made it clear this wasn't a friendly visit. This was a siege. Doors opened in perfect synchronization. Men emerged wearing dark suits and darker expressions, fanning out to cover every entrance and exit. They moved with military precision, speaking into earpieces, scanning windows and rooftops and shadows, with the practiced ease of people who knew exactly what they were doing. Sophia's hands trembled so badly she nearly dropped the curtain. One man stood apart from the others. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Sophia made in 3 months. Even from 3 floors up, even in the rain and poor light, she could see the way the other men deferred to him, creating a subtle circle of space around him like he was royalty. Alessio Castelli. He looked up, directly at her window, and Sophia jerked back from the curtain like she'd been burned. But not before she caught a glimpse of his face. Sharp features, ice-blue eyes that seemed to cut through the distance and the darkness, and an expression of absolute certainty. He knew she was watching. Footsteps echoed in the hallway outside her apartment. Slow, measured, controlled. They stopped directly outside her door. Knock. 3 precise strikes, perfectly spaced. Not aggressive, not tentative, just inevitable. Sophia crossed to the door on legs that didn't feel entirely steady. She pressed her eye to the peephole and saw him standing in her hallway like he owned it. Up close, Alessio Castelli was even more imposing. 6'2" or 6'3", dark hair cut short, and those ice-blue eyes that seemed to see through the door and into her soul. "Ms. Ellis," he said calmly, not raising his voice at all. "I can hear you breathing. Open the door." Sophia's hand moved to the deadbolt before her brain caught up. Some primitive part of her recognized that this man was used to being obeyed, and resistance would only make things worse. She opened the door. Alessio Castelli stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, and Sophia instinctively moved back. He wasn't threatening, not overtly, but he filled her tiny apartment with a presence that made the walls feel closer together. He glanced around, taking in the peeling paint, the ancient radiator, the stack of unpaid bills on the counter, Emma's toys scattered near the couch. His eyes settled on Sophia, and she fought the urge to wrap her arms around herself. "You have 3 locks on that door," he said quietly. "Only one was engaged. Why?" The others are broken. The landlord won't fix them." Unacceptable. He pulled out his phone and typed something quickly, then pocketed it again. "That will be addressed within the hour. Now, I need you to tell me everything about your relationship with Michael Donovan." "There's nothing to tell. We dated in college, I got pregnant, he panicked, and disappeared for most of my pregnancy. Showed up for Emma's birth, played dad for about 18 months, then gradually checked out completely. Now he ghosts my messages and pretends we don't exist." "When did you last speak to him directly?" "Christmas. I asked him to send something for Emma, a gift, money, anything. He said he would, and then nothing showed up." "Has he ever mentioned my family name?" "No, never. I didn't even know he knew who you were. The thing I said in the text about the Castellis, that was just something people say, like saying hiding from the Mafia. I didn't mean it literally." Alessio studied her face for a long moment, and Sophia had the uncomfortable sensation of being read like a book. "You're telling the truth," he finally said. "But that doesn't change the situation you're in." "What situation?" "I don't know anything. Michael and I barely speak. Whatever he did, it has nothing to do with me or Emma. 3 days ago, Michael Donovan broke into my family's primary office in Manhattan. He bypassed a security system that costs more annually than most people make in a lifetime, accessed a vault that requires biometric authorization, and stole a flash drive containing information that could get a lot of people killed if it reaches the wrong hands. Sophia's stomach dropped. That's impossible. Michael can barely work his iPhone. There's no way he could. He didn't work alone, Alessio interrupted. We believe he was hired by a competing organization to acquire specific intelligence. What they didn't account for was Michael's stupidity. Instead of delivering the drive immediately, he apparently decided to make copies, probably planning to sell the information to multiple buyers. He's now being hunted by at least 3 different groups, each with their own reasons for wanting him dead. The room spun. Sophia grabbed the back of the couch to steady herself. I don't understand what this has to do with me. Michael Donovan is a coward and a fool, but he's also desperate. Desperate men do irrational things, like reaching out to former girlfriends for help, or using their children as leverage, or hiding stolen property in places no one would think to look. Alessio took a step closer. The people looking for Michael will assume you're a resource he might use. They will come here. They will ask you questions, and if they don't believe your answers, they won't be as polite as I'm being. Then what am I supposed to do? Sophia's voice cracked. I can't just... Emma is 4 years old. She's sick. She needs her medicine and her bed, and she needs to be somewhere safe, Alessio said quietly. Somewhere these people can't reach her. Somewhere I can control the situation. Sophia's breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying you have 2 choices, Ms. Ellis. Choice 1, you stay here, hope Michael doesn't contact you, and pray the Russians or the Koreans or the Irish find him before they decide to use you as bait. I give that scenario approximately 48 hours before it ends very badly for you and your daughter. The way he said it, calm, factual, like he was discussing the weather, made it somehow more terrifying. Choice 2? Sophia whispered. You and Emma come with me, now, tonight. I have a secure location where you'll be protected while my people locate Michael and recover what he stole. You cooperate fully, answer every question honestly, and help me end this situation as quickly as possible. In exchange, I guarantee your safety and your daughter's safety. That's not a choice. It's the only choice you have, Alessio said, and his ice blue eyes held hers with uncomfortable intensity. I understand this is frightening. I understand you don't know me and have no reason to trust me, but I need you to understand something equally important. I am very good at what I do, and what I do is control situations exactly like this one. The people hunting Michael are chaos. I am order. Choose accordingly. Sophia looked at Emma's closed bedroom door. Through the thin walls, she could hear her daughter's congested breathing, the small sounds of restless sleep. 4 years old, feverish, innocent, and now, somehow, a target. If I come with you, Sophia said slowly, what happens to Emma's medicine? She needs... I have a doctor on call 24 hours a day. Emma will be examined and treated properly within the hour. My job, I'm supposed to work tomorrow. Call in sick, or don't call at all. Miss Ellis, you're worried about the wrong things. Your job, your apartment, your normal life, those concerns ended the moment you sent that text. Right now, the only thing that matters is keeping your daughter alive. Everything else is negotiable. He was right. Sophia hated that he was right, but everything he'd said made a horrible kind of sense. If Michael really had stolen from the Castelli family, if dangerous people were really looking for him, then staying here was suicide. How do I know you won't hurt us? She asked quietly. You don't. But consider this. If I wanted to hurt you, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I would have simply taken what I wanted and left. The fact that I'm offering you protection instead of coercion should tell you something about my intentions. Sophia closed her eyes. God, she was so tired. Tired of making impossible choices with insufficient information. Tired of being alone in every decision that mattered. Okay, she whispered. Okay, but I need to pack some things for Emma. 5 minutes, Alessio said. 1 bag. Essentials only. My people will inventory this apartment within the hour to ensure Michael hasn't left anything here. If you have anything sentimental you can't replace, pack it now. Sophia moved on autopilot, grabbing the ratty duffel bag she used for laundry and stuffing it with Emma's clothes, her favorite stuffed rabbit. The medication Sophia had left. Spare diapers, even though Emma was mostly trained. Her own stuff barely mattered. A change of clothes, her phone charger, her wallet with the $17 in cash it contained. The whole life she'd built for 4 years fit into one bag. When she emerged from the bedroom with the duffel over one shoulder and Emma wrapped in blankets in her arms, Alessio was standing by the window, phone to his ear, speaking in rapid Italian. He ended the call and turned to face her. "Ready?" "No," Sophia said honestly. "But I don't think that matters." "It doesn't." He crossed to the door and opened it, gesturing for her to go first. "Stay close to me. Don't look at anyone. Don't speak to anyone. When we get to the vehicle, get in quickly." The hallway was suddenly full of men in dark suits. Sophia counted 5, no 6, all watching her with professional detachment. They created a human corridor from her apartment door to the stairwell, and Sophia walked through it feeling like she was moving through a dream. Emma stirred against her shoulder. "Mommy, where are we going?" "Somewhere safe, baby," Sophia murmured, kissing her hot forehead. "Just close your eyes." The stairwell felt like it went on forever. Down 3 flights, Emma's weight growing heavier with each step, Alessio's presence a solid wall at her back. More men waited at the building's entrance, and when they stepped outside, Sophia realized the entire block had been transformed. Black SUVs idled at both ends of the street. Men stood at every corner, every alley entrance, every possible approach. It looked like a military operation. It looked like war. Alessio guided her to the center vehicle, and someone opened the door before they reached it. The interior was all black leather and tinted windows, and the faint smell of expensive cologne. Sophia slid in with Emma on her lap, and Alessio followed, the door closing behind him with a solid thunk that sounded horribly final. "Drive," he said quietly. The convoy moved as one, pulling away from Sophia's building, her home, her life, everything familiar, and disappearing into the rainy New York night. Sophia watched through the tinted windows as Vernon Boulevard slipped past, then the bridge, then Manhattan's glittering skyline. She held Emma close and tried not to think about the fact that she'd just willingly gotten into a car with a man she'd met 20 minutes ago, a man whose last name was synonymous with violence and power and things that happened in shadows. Alessio was silent beside her, his attention on his phone, typing and scrolling with the efficiency of someone managing multiple crises simultaneously. Finally, he glanced at Emma's sleeping form. "How long has she been sick?" "Since yesterday morning. The fever started around sunrise." "Any other symptoms?" "Cough, congestion. She's been complaining about her ears hurting." Alessio nodded and sent another text. "Dr. Chen will meet us at the house. She specializes in pediatrics. Emma will be comfortable." "Where are we going?" "Somewhere very few people know about. Somewhere no one will think to look for you." He pocketed his phone and turned to face her fully. "I need you to prepare yourself for what happens next, Miss Ellis. The house you're about to enter is not a home. It's a fortress. You won't be able to leave without my explicit permission. Your phones will be monitored. Your movements will be tracked. Every person you encounter will be there for a specific purpose, and that purpose is not your comfort. It's your security." "Sounds like a prison," Sophia said quietly. "It's the safest prison in New York," Alessio replied. "And right now, that's exactly what you need." They drove for 40 minutes, leaving the city behind and heading north into Westchester County. The neighborhoods grew larger, the houses more imposing, until finally they turned onto a private road marked only by a subtle stone pillar. Trees lined the drive, creating a tunnel of darkness, and then the house appeared. Calling it a house was like calling the ocean a puddle. The structure sprawled across the hilltop like a sleeping giant. 3 stories of stone and glass and architectural statements Sophia couldn't begin to understand. Lights blazed from windows, illuminating manicured grounds that seemed to go on forever. A fountain sparkled in the circular drive. Sculptures dotted the landscape. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. The SUV stopped at the main entrance, where a woman in her 50s wearing a white coat waited with a medical bag. Dr. Chen, presumably. More men in suits flanked the doorway, and Sophia realized with a sinking feeling that Alessio hadn't been exaggerating about the security. This place was a fortress. "Welcome to my home, Ms. Ellis," Alessio said as he stepped out of the vehicle. "Try to rest tonight. Tomorrow, We have a lot of work to do. Sophia climbed out with Emma in her arms, her legs shaky after the long drive. Dr. Chen approached immediately, her expression warm despite the circumstances. "Let's get this little one examined," she said gently. "I promise to be quick." They were ushered inside, through a foyer that could have fit Sophia's entire apartment twice over, and up a curved staircase to a second-floor suite that was larger than any home Sophia had ever lived in. A king bed dominated one wall, a sitting area with a fireplace occupied another. Through an open door, Sophia could see a bathroom with a tub that looked like it belonged in a spa. "This is your room," Alessio said. "There's a connecting door to an adjacent bedroom where Emma can sleep once Dr. Chen has cleared her. You'll find everything you need, clothes, toiletries, anything you might have forgotten. If something is missing, tell Maria." He gestured to a woman in her 30s who'd appeared silently in the doorway. "She manages the household and will ensure you're comfortable." Comfortable. Right. Because that was possible while being held in a gilded cage by a man who could apparently find out everything about her life with a single phone call. Dr. Chen set up her equipment on the coffee table and smiled at Emma. "Hello, sweetheart. My name is Dr. Chen. I hear you're not feeling very well. Can I take a look at you?" Emma, bless her, was too exhausted to be scared. She let the doctor examine her with minimal fuss, and Sophia watched as Dr. Chen checked her temperature, 103.2, listened to her lungs, looked in her ears and throat. "Bilateral ear infection," Dr. Chen finally announced. "Common, easily treatable, but painful for someone this small. I'm going to give her an antibiotic injection now and start her on oral antibiotics tomorrow. The fever should break within 24 hours. "Is she going to be okay?" Sophia asked, hating how her voice shook. "She's going to be fine," Dr. Chen said firmly. "This is very routine. The injection will sting for a moment, but then she'll start feeling better almost immediately." Sophia held Emma close while Dr. Chen administered the shot, whispering reassurances and stroking her daughter's hair. Emma cried, sharp, wounded sobs that made Sophia's chest ache, but within minutes she was calm again, curled against Sophia's chest with her thumb in her mouth. "Let her sleep," Dr. Chen advised. "I'll check on her in the morning. And you," she turned to Sophia with a knowing look, "you need rest too. When was the last time you slept through the night?" Sophia couldn't remember. "Doctor." Chen packed up her equipment and left with final instructions to call immediately if Emma's condition changed. Maria showed them to the connecting bedroom, where a twin bed had been prepared with sheets so soft Sophia was afraid to touch them. She settled Emma under the covers, tucking the stuffed rabbit beside her, and stood watching her daughter sleep for a long moment. Safe. Emma was safe here, fed and warm and being treated by a real doctor instead of Sophia's desperate Google searches and generic fever reducers. "Ms. Ellis." Sophia turned to find Alessio standing in the doorway, his suit jacket removed, sleeves rolled to his elbows. Somehow, that small concession to casualness made him seem more human and more dangerous at the same time. "She's sleeping," Sophia said quietly. "Good. Now we need to talk." He led her back to the sitting room and gestured for her to take the armchair while he remained standing, pacing slowly near the fireplace. The flames cast shifting shadows across his face, highlighting the sharp angles of his cheekbones, the intensity in those ice-blue eyes. "My people searched Michael's last known address tonight," Alessio said without preamble. "He's gone. Apartment cleared out, neighbors haven't seen him in days. But we found something interesting." He pulled out his phone and swiped through several images before holding it out to Sophia. She took it with trembling hands and stared at the screen. Photos. Dozens of them. All of Emma. Emma at the playground near their apartment, Emma walking to daycare holding Sophia's hand, Emma through the window of their living room playing with her toys, Emma sleeping in her bed. Someone had been watching her daughter, photographing her without permission, stalking her. "Oh my God," Sophia whispered, her vision blurring with tears. "Keep looking." Sophia swiped to the next image and felt her blood turn to ice. A small purple backpack, Emma's favorite unicorn backpack that had gone missing 2 months ago. It was open in the photo, contents spread across a table. Emma's passport, which Sophia kept in a locked drawer. $2,000 in cash. A burner phone. A folder with documents Sophia couldn't quite make out. Michael was planning to take her, Alessio said quietly. Those photos, that passport, the cash. He was building an escape plan, and Emma was part of it. No, Sophia shook her head violently. No, that doesn't make sense. Michael doesn't want Emma. He's made that clear for years. Why would he? Leverage, Alessio interrupted. Or insurance. Or maybe he convinced himself he was protecting her. It doesn't matter. What matters is that your ex-boyfriend is more dangerous than you realized, and Emma was in his crosshairs long before he stole from my family. Sophia's hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the phone. Rage and terror warred in her chest, each trying to drown out the other. Michael had been watching Emma, planning to take her. And Sophia hadn't noticed, hadn't protected her, hadn't... This isn't your fault, Alessio said, and something in his voice made her look up. His expression had softened fractionally. You couldn't have known. Michael is a coward, but he's also clever when it comes to self-preservation. He hid this well. What else did you find? Evidence that Michael has been in contact with members of the Voronov organization, Russian Mafia with a particularly nasty reputation for violence. We also found connection points to a Korean gang operating out of Flushing and what appears to be communication with an Irish crew in Boston. He's been playing multiple sides, trying to auction the information on that flash drive to the highest bidder. And these people, they know about me? About Emma? They will. If they don't already. Alessio crossed to the armchair and crouched down so they were eye level. I'm telling you this because you need to understand the severity of the situation. This isn't going to end with Michael simply returning what he stole. Too many players are involved now. Too many people want him dead. And until we locate him and neutralize the threat, you and Emma remain at risk. Sophia met his gaze, seeing her own fear reflected in those ice-blue depths. But she also saw something else. Determination. Control. The absolute certainty of a man who dealt with worse and won. What do you need from me? She asked. Tomorrow, I need you to try to contact Michael. Call him, text him, use whatever method you think might actually reach him. Tell him Emma is sick, which is true, and that you need money for medical bills. Make it desperate. Make it believable. See if he responds. You want to use me as bait. I want to use you as an asset, Alessio corrected. There's a difference. You're not being thrown to the wolves. You're helping me draw them into a controlled environment where I have every advantage. Sophia thought about those photos of Emma. Thought about Michael's betrayal stacked on top of years of abandonment and neglect. Thought about her daughter sleeping in the next room, finally safe and warm and healing. Okay, she said, I'll do it, but I have conditions. Alessio's eyebrow rose fractionally. You're not in a position to negotiate, Ms. Ellis. Maybe not, but you need my cooperation, which means I have at least some leverage. Sophia straightened her spine, channeling every ounce of courage she'd built up through 4 years of single motherhood and poverty and sheer determination to survive. If I help you find Michael and get back whatever he stole, I want something in return. Name it. Safety. Real permanent safety for Emma and me. Not just protection during this crisis, but after it ends. New identities if necessary. Enough money to start over somewhere Michael and whoever he's working with can never find us. A clean break from everything. Alessio studied her face for a long moment, and Sophia forced herself to hold his gaze without flinching. She'd asked for the impossible, she knew that. Men like Alessio Castelli didn't just hand out new lives to desperate single mothers who'd accidentally texted them. But she had to try. Finally, Alessio stood, and a slow smile curved his lips. You're braver than you look, Ms. Ellis. Or more desperate. I'm not sure which. Both, Sophia said honestly. All right. You help me end this situation cleanly. Michael found, drive recovered, threats neutralized, and I'll give you what you're asking for. New identities, relocation expenses, enough capital to start fresh. You and Emma cease to exist as far as anyone looking for Michael is concerned. It was more than she'd dared hope for. It was everything she needed. It was also a deal with the devil. Thank you, Sophia whispered. Don't thank me yet, Alessio said. You might not like what it costs you. He left her alone then, and Sophia sat in the luxurious armchair in the fortress mansion, listening to the fire crackle and her daughter breathe in the next room. Outside, rain continued to fall. And somewhere in the city, Michael Donovan was running from demons he'd created, and Sophia, broke, desperate, terrified Sophia, was about to help bring him down. She pulled out her phone and stared at Michael's contact for a long moment. Then, before she could second-guess herself, she typed a message. Michael, I know you don't want to hear from me, but Emma is really sick. High fever, ear infection. Doctor says she needs antibiotics, but I can't afford them right now. Please, I'm begging you. If you ever cared about her at all, send something, anything. I'm desperate. She hit send and watched the message deliver. Read receipts were off. They always were with Michael, so she had no way of knowing if he'd even see it. But somewhere in the night, her message traveled through digital pathways to wherever Michael was hiding, and with it went Sophia's last hope for a normal life, and the first step towards something far more dangerous. The fire burned low. Emma slept peacefully. And Sophia Ellis sat awake in a stranger's mansion, waiting for morning and whatever fresh horrors it might bring. One wrong text message had brought her here. She could only hope that same mistake might somehow save them both. Sophia woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the disorienting sensation of silk sheets against her skin. For 3 confused seconds, she thought she was dreaming. Then memory crashed back. The wrong text, the SUVs, Alessio Castelli's ice-blue eyes, the photos of Emma. She bolted upright and immediately rushed to the connecting door. Emma was still asleep, curled around her stuffed rabbit, her breathing easier than it had been in days. Sophia pressed her palm to her daughter's forehead and nearly cried with relief. Cool. The fever had broken. She's doing much better. Sophia spun around to find Dr. Chen standing in the doorway, medical bag in hand and a warm smile on her face. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to startle you, the doctor continued, entering the room with quiet efficiency. I came to check on our patient. May I? Sophia nodded, stepping back to let Dr. Chen examine Emma. The little girl stirred but didn't fully wake, allowing the doctor to check her temperature, listen to her breathing, and look in her ears with practiced gentleness. Temperature is 98.6, Dr. Chen announced. Lungs sound clear. The infection is responding well to the antibiotics. She'll need to complete the full course, but I expect a full recovery within the week. Thank you, Sophia whispered, her throat tight. I don't know what I would have done if... You would have found a way, Dr. Chen said firmly, packing up her equipment. Mothers always do, but I'm glad you didn't have to. She paused at the door, her expression growing more serious. Mr. Castelli asked me to tell you he'll meet you for breakfast in 30 minutes. Maria has prepared clothes for you in the bathroom. Take your time. Emma will sleep for another hour at least. The doctor left, and Sophia stood in the middle of the bedroom feeling unmoored. Breakfast with Alessio Castelli. Right, because her life had become some kind of surreal crime drama, where she had morning meetings with men whose last names made people cross the street. She showered quickly in the bathroom that was bigger than her entire apartment had been, trying not to think about the marble countertops, or the rain shower head, or the fact that the towels were softer than any clothing she owned. Maria had indeed left clothes. Expensive-looking jeans that actually fit, a cashmere sweater in deep blue, undergarments still in their packaging. Everything was exactly her size. Of course it was. Alessio Castelli had known her address and her daughter's medical condition within seconds of receiving a text message. Learning her clothing size was probably child's play. Sophia dressed and returned to check on Emma one more time before following the sound of voices downstairs. The mansion was even more impressive in daylight. High ceilings, original artwork, furniture that looked like it belonged in museums. She found the dining room by following the smell of coffee and fresh bread. Alessio sat at the head of a table that could have seated 20, dressed in another perfectly tailored suit, his attention focused on a tablet in front of him. He looked up when she entered, those ice-blue eyes assessing her with the same intensity as the night before. Miss Ellis, please sit. He gestured to the chair on his right. How did you sleep? I didn't, Sophia admitted, taking the indicated seat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those photos of Emma. Understandable. He set the tablet aside as Maria appeared with a coffee pot and filled Sophia's cup without asking. Dr. Chen tells me Emma's fever has broken. Yes, she said Emma should make a full recovery. Good. Then we can focus on the matter at hand. Alessio picked up his own coffee cup, watching her over the rim. Did Michael respond to your message? Sophia pulled out her phone and checked for what felt like the 100th time. No, nothing. Try calling him. He never answers when I call. He only responds to texts, and even then it's rare. Try anyway. Put it on speaker. Sophia's hands trembled slightly as she pulled up Michael's contact and hit the call button. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. She was about to end the call when suddenly it connected. Sophia? Michael's voice came through tinny and distant, and Sophia's entire body went rigid. Jesus, what time is it? Why are you calling so early? It's 9:30, Michael, and I'm calling because your daughter has been sick with a high fever and an ear infection, and I needed money for antibiotics. I told you, I don't have any money right now. Things are tight. I'm between jobs. You're always between jobs, Sophia snapped, anger flooding her system. Alessio made a small gesture with his hand. Keep going. Stay angry. Make it real. Emma had 103 fever, Michael. She was crying because her ears hurt so badly. And you couldn't be bothered to send even $50? Don't guilt trip me, Sophia. You know I'd help if I could. Where are you? The question came out sharper than Sophia intended, and there was a pause on the other end of the line. What do you mean, where am I? I'm at home. Why? Because I tried your apartment, and your landlord said you moved out 3 days ago without notice. So where the hell are you, Michael? Another pause, longer this time. Sophia could hear background noise, traffic, voices, the distinct sound of a subway announcement. I'm staying with a friend, Michael finally said. Look, I'm dealing with some stuff right now, okay? Some complicated business things. Once I get it sorted out, I'll send you money for Emma, I promise. What kind of business things? Nothing you need to worry about. Just trust me, okay? Everything's going to work out, and then I'll make it right with you and Emma. I swear. Alessio was typing rapidly on his tablet, his expression focused. He held up the screen to show Sophia a message. Keep him talking. Ask about the backpack. Michael, I need to ask you something, Sophia said, her voice shaking now for real. A couple months ago, Emma's unicorn backpack went missing. The purple one she loved. Did you take it? Dead silence. Michael? Why would you ask me that? Because I've been tearing the apartment apart looking for it, and Emma asks about it constantly. If you took it for some reason, just tell me. I need to know. I don't know anything about a backpack, Sophia. Jesus, why are you acting so weird? Are you okay? Am I okay? Sophia's voice rose. My daughter was sick. I have no money. Her father won't help, and now I'm asking about a missing backpack. How do you think I am? Look, I gotta go. I'll call you later, okay? When things calm down. Michael, wait. The line went dead. Sophia set the phone down with shaking hands and looked at Alessio. He hung up. That's fine. You did well. Alessio was still focused on his tablet, swiping and typing with practiced efficiency. The call lasted 2 minutes and 47 seconds, more than enough time for my people to triangulate his location. He's in Brooklyn, Red Hook area, near the waterfront. How did you? I told you, Ms. Ellis, I'm very good at what I do. He set the tablet aside and leaned back in his chair, studying her. Did you notice how he deflected every direct question? Where he's staying, why he left his apartment, the backpack. Classic evasion tactics from someone with something to hide. He sounded scared, Sophia said quietly. He should be. He's made enemies of people who don't forgive or forget. Alessio paused. How do you feel, hearing his voice again? It was an unexpectedly personal question, and Sophia took a moment to consider her answer. Angry, sad, disgusted, all the usual feelings when it comes to Michael, but also, she hesitated. What? Also relieved that Emma sounds nothing like him, that she's better than him, that whatever genes he gave her got completely overridden by… Sophia stopped, realizing how much she was revealing, but Alessio just nodded. Children often transcend their origins. It's one of the more hopeful aspects of human nature. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket. I need to coordinate with my team regarding Michael's location. Maria will bring you breakfast. Stay in the house today. Don't go outside. Don't answer the door. Don't contact anyone except Emma's daycare to let them know she's sick. What are you going to do? What's necessary? He started to leave, then turned back. One more thing. Did Michael sound like he was alone on that call? Sophia thought back, replaying the conversation in her mind. I'm not sure. There were background sounds, but I couldn't tell if someone was with him or if it was just street noise. Think carefully. Any voices? Anyone speaking to him before or after he spoke to you? No, I don't think... Wait. Right before I called, right as he answered, I thought I heard someone say something. A man's voice, maybe, but I couldn't make out the words. Alessio's expression darkened. He's not alone, which means he's either with the people who hired him or he's being held by someone who wants what he stole. Either scenario complicates things. He pulled out his phone and typed a quick message. Stay alert, Ms. Ellis, and keep your phone on you at all times. If Michael contacts you again, I need to know immediately. He left before Sophia could respond, his footsteps echoing through the vast house. Maria appeared moments later with a breakfast spread that would have fed 6 people. Fresh fruit, pastries, eggs, bacon, yogurt, juice, more coffee. Sophia picked at it, her appetite non-existent despite the incredible quality of the food. She was helping a man she barely knew hunt down her ex-boyfriend. She was living in a mansion that looked like something from a magazine. Her daughter was being treated by a private doctor in a bedroom that cost more to furnish than Sophia had earned in the past year. And somewhere in Brooklyn, Michael was running from consequences he'd created, dragging Sophia and Emma into danger with his usual selfish thoughtlessness. The day crawled by with agonizing slowness. Emma woke around noon, groggy but clearly feeling better. Sophia spent the afternoon watching Disney movies with her daughter in the media room, an actual theater with reclining seats and a screen the size of Sophia's old living room. Maria brought lunch, snacks, more medicine for Emma, anything they needed before Sophia even thought to ask. It should have been paradise. It felt like a velvet trap. Around 6 in the evening, as Sophia was helping Emma with a coloring book in their suite, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Alessio. Come to my office, 3rd floor, west wing. Maria will show you. Bring your phone. Sophia's heart rate kicked up. She asked Maria to stay with Emma. The housekeeper agreed immediately, settling onto the floor to color alongside the 4-year-old like it was the most natural thing in the world, and followed the directions to Alessio's office. The west wing was quieter than the rest of the house, more austere. Sophia passed several closed doors before reaching the one at the end of the hall. She knocked twice. Come in. Alessio's office was all dark wood and leather, walls lined with books and what looked like surveillance monitors showing various angles of the property. He sat behind a massive desk, jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up, looking like he'd been there for hours. 2 other men stood near the window, both in their 30s, both carrying themselves with the same dangerous competence as the men who'd surrounded her building the night before. Ms. Ellis, thank you for joining us. Alessio gestured to one of the chairs facing his desk. This is Marco and Vincent. They're part of my security team. They've been investigating Michael's situation, and they have information you need to hear. Sophia sat, her palms sweaty. What kind of information? Marco stepped forward, holding a tablet. He was built like a boxer, with scarred knuckles and sharp eyes that seemed to catalog everything. We tracked Michael to a warehouse in Red Hook. He's holed up there with 3 other men. We've identified 2 of them as associates of the Voronoff organization, low-level enforcers, not particularly bright, but willing to get their hands dirty. The 3rd man is Michael's cousin, Tommy Donovan. Tommy? Sophia blinked. I didn't even know Michael had a cousin named Tommy. Most people don't. Tommy's the smart one in the Donovan family. Computer science degree, works in cybersecurity, knows how to bypass systems most people don't even know exist. We believe Tommy is the one who actually executed the break-in at our facility. Michael was just the face, the distraction. So Michael isn't even the mastermind here. Sophia couldn't decide if that made it better or worse. Michael has never been the mastermind of anything, Alessio said dryly, but that doesn't change the fact that he's involved, or that his name is on the security footage, or that he's now in possession of stolen property that belongs to my family. Vincent spoke for the first time, his voice surprisingly soft for someone built like a wall. We also found something else at Michael's apartment, something we need you to look at. He produced a folder and handed it to Sophia. She opened it with trembling hands and felt the world tilt sideways. More photos of Emma. But these were different from the surveillance shots Alessio had shown her the night before. These were professional quality images, clearly staged. Emma at a park Sophia had never seen, wearing clothes Sophia hadn't bought. Emma holding an ice cream cone, laughing at something off camera. Emma on a carousel, her hands gripping a painted horse. "I've never seen these before," Sophia whispered. "I don't know where these were taken. I've never taken Emma to any of these places." "Because you didn't take her," Marco said quietly. "Michael did. We pulled metadata from the files. These were taken over the past 6 months during the weekends Michael claimed to be working. He was spending time with Emma, taking her places, making plans. But I would have known. Emma would have told me. Emma's 4 years old," Alessio interrupted gently, and Michael likely framed these outings as special daddy-daughter secrets. Adventures she shouldn't tell mommy about because it would make you sad that you had to work instead of playing. Children that age don't understand manipulation. They just know they got ice cream and attention. Sophia's hands shook so badly the photos blurred. He was grooming her, preparing her to go with him willingly when he finally made his move. "We believe so, yes." The rage that flooded Sophia's system was unlike anything she'd ever felt, pure incandescent fury that made her vision narrow and her breath come in sharp gasps. "I'm going to kill him. I swear to God, I'm going to—" "You're going to help me bring him in," Alessio said firmly. "Alive. Because dead men can't tell me where they've hidden the information they stole, and they can't identify everyone they've sold copies to. I need Michael breathing, Miss Ellis, no matter how much he deserves otherwise." Sophia forced herself to breathe, to think through the red haze of rage. "What do you need me to do?" "Tomorrow morning, you're going to text Michael again. Tell him Emma's gotten worse despite the antibiotics. Tell him you're terrified and you need his help. Not money this time, just his presence. Tell him you're willing to meet him anywhere, any time, if he'll just come see his daughter one last time before—" Alessio paused. "Before you make a decision you can't take back." "You want me to imply I might hurt Emma?" Sophia's voice rose. "Are you insane?" "I want you to imply you're at the breaking point. That poverty and single motherhood and a sick child have pushed you past rational thought. Michael knows you're struggling. Use that. Make him think you need him to talk you down from a ledge." "He won't care. He's never cared." "He cared enough to take those photos," Alessio countered. "He cared enough to plan an escape that included Emma. Whether that care is selfish or genuine doesn't matter. What matters is that he'll respond to the threat of losing access to her permanently." Sophia looked at the photos again, at her daughter's innocent smile, at the evidence of Michael's secret planning. "Where would we meet?" "Bluebird Coffee. It's a small chain, usually busy, lots of witnesses, neutral ground where Michael will feel safe. We'll set the meeting for tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Public enough that he won't suspect an ambush, but controlled enough that my people can monitor every entrance and exit. And when he shows up, you'll keep him talking long enough for us to verify he has the flash drive on him. Then you'll excuse yourself. Bathroom break, phone call, doesn't matter, and my team will handle the rest." "Handle it how?" Alessio's expression went cold. "However necessary, Ms. Ellis. This isn't a negotiation or an arrest. This is recovery of stolen property and elimination of a threat. Michael will be questioned, the drive will be recovered, and any copies he's made will be traced and destroyed. What happens to him after that depends entirely on how cooperative he chooses to be." The words hung in the air, heavy with implications Sophia didn't want to examine too closely. She'd asked for protection, for a way out. She hadn't asked what that protection would cost in blood and consequences. "I need to think about this," she said quietly. "You have until morning. But understand something. This meeting is happening whether you participate or not. I'm offering you the chance to be part of the solution because I believe you deserve justice for what Michael has done to you and your daughter. But if you refuse, I'll find another way to draw him out, one that might not end as cleanly for anyone involved." Sophia stood on shaking legs. "I should get back to Emma. One more thing." Alessio opened a drawer in his desk and pulled out a small device that looked like a high-end fitness tracker. "This is a panic button. Wear it at all times. If anything happens, if you feel unsafe, if someone unexpected shows up, if Emma's condition changes, press it once, and my people will be at your location within seconds. Press it twice, and it triggers a full security lockdown of the property. He handed her the device, and Sophia slipped it onto her wrist. It was surprisingly light, almost delicate, but the weight of what it represented felt crushing. "Thank you," she managed. Back in the suite, Emma was showing Maria a picture she'd colored, a house with a family of stick figures in front. "Look, Mommy, I drew us." Sophia looked at the picture. 3 figures, one big, one medium, one small. Emma had drawn Sophia and herself, and a third person Sophia couldn't identify. The figure was taller than Sophia, with what might have been dark hair. "Who's that, baby?" Sophia asked, pointing to the third figure. "That's the nice man who gave me ice cream," Emma said happily. "Remember? The one who said it was our secret?" The room spun. Sophia gripped the back of the couch to steady herself. "When did you have ice cream with a nice man, Emma?" "Lots of times. He took me to the park, and we rode the horses, and he got me a unicorn backpack and said we were going to go on a big adventure." Emma was still coloring, oblivious to the horror dawning on Sophia's face. "But then you got mad about the backpack, so I had to give it back." "You gave it back? To who?" "To the nice man. He said it was okay, we could get a new one for our adventure. He said—" Emma paused, concentrating on coloring a flower purple. "He said soon I wouldn't have to be cold anymore, and you wouldn't have to be sad." Sophia couldn't breathe. The room was closing in, the walls shrinking, her vision tunneling down to Emma's innocent face and the stick figure family she'd drawn that included the man who'd been planning to kidnap her. "Emma, this is very important," Sophia said, kneeling down to her daughter's level. "When did you last see the nice man?" "I don't remember, a long time ago, before I got sick." Emma looked up, her little face concerned. "Are you okay, Mommy? You look scared." "I'm fine, baby. I need to talk to someone for a minute. Keep coloring with Maria, okay?" Sophia stood and walked calmly out of the room, down the hall, and into the bathroom before her legs gave out. She made it to the toilet just in time to vomit up everything she'd eaten that day, her body purging the horror and rage and absolute terror of what Emma had just revealed. Michael had been in contact with Emma for months, had built a relationship with her, had promised her adventures and new backpacks and a life without cold apartments, had groomed her so thoroughly that Emma still referred to him as the nice man instead of Daddy. And Sophia had never known. She rinsed her mouth, splashed cold water on her face, and pressed the panic button on her wrist once. 90 seconds later, Alessio appeared in the bathroom doorway, his expression sharp with concern. "What happened? Are you hurt?" "Emma," Sophia managed. "Emma just told me she's been seeing Michael for months. He took her places, bought her things, made promises about adventures, and I never knew. I never fucking knew he was grooming my daughter right under my nose." Alessio's jaw tightened. What exactly did she say? Sophia repeated Emma's words, watching Alessio's expression grow progressively darker. When she finished, he was silent for a long moment. "Tomorrow night," he finally said. 8 p.m. at Bluebird Coffee. "You're going to text Michael exactly what I told you, and when he shows up, you're going to look him in the eye and think about every lie he told your daughter, every secret he convinced her to keep, every moment he spent planning to take her away from you. And then you're going to help me end this." Sophia met his ice blue gaze and saw her own fury reflected back. "What do I say to him?" "Whatever you need to say to keep him at that table long enough for my people to verify the flash drive's location. After that—" Alessio's voice went cold in a way that made Sophia's spine straighten. "After that, Michael Donovan stops being your problem. He becomes mine." "I want to be there," Sophia heard herself say. "When you question him, when you find out what he was planning to do with Emma, I want to hear it from his mouth." "That's not advisable. It could be—" "I don't care what it could be," Sophia interrupted. "That's my daughter he was planning to kidnap. My life he was destroying. I have a right to know why. I have a right to hear him explain how he justified any of this." Alessio studied her for a long moment. "All right, but you follow my rules. You don't speak unless I give you permission. You don't intervene no matter what you hear or see. And if I tell you to leave, you leave immediately without argument. Understood?" "Understood." They stood there in the bathroom, two people brought together by circumstance and necessity, and Sophia felt something shift in the dynamic between them. She wasn't just a victim being protected anymore. She was a participant in whatever came next. Go back to Emma, Alessio said quietly. Try to act normal. Don't let her know anything is wrong. Children pick up on stress, and we need her calm tomorrow. Sophia nodded and returned to the suite, where Emma was proudly showing Maria her completed coloring page. The stick figure family smiled up from the paper, frozen in crayon happiness that bore no resemblance to reality. It's beautiful, baby, Sophia said, pulling Emma into a tight hug. You're so talented. That night, Sophia lay awake in the darkness long after Emma had fallen asleep. She composed and deleted a dozen different text messages to Michael before finally settling on the words Alessio had suggested. Michael, Emma's gotten worse. The antibiotics aren't working, and she's asking for you. I know we're not together anymore, and I know you have your own problems, but she's crying for her daddy, and I don't know what to do. Please, I need you to come see her, just once. I'm meeting a friend at Bluebird Coffee tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Can you meet me there? Just to talk, just so I can see your face and remember why I loved you enough to create this beautiful little girl. I'm begging you. She scheduled the message to send at 6 a.m. when Michael would hopefully be awake, but still groggy enough to respond emotionally instead of logically. Then she set the phone aside and stared at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the fortress around her. Somewhere in this massive house, Alessio Castelli was planning tomorrow night's confrontation. Somewhere in Brooklyn, Michael Donovan was hiding with stolen property and shattered lives trailing behind him. And here in this too-soft bed, Sophia Ellis was transforming from victim to something else entirely. She didn't sleep, she waited. And when dawn came and her phone buzzed with Michael's response, I'll be there. I'm sorry about everything, Soph, I really am. Sophia felt no relief, no hope, no forgiveness. She felt only the cold certainty that tomorrow night, one way or another, the man who'd fathered her child and then tried to steal her would finally face consequences he couldn't charm or manipulate or run away from. The trap was set. All that remained was to spring it. The hours between Michael's text and 8 p.m. felt like moving through concrete. Sophia went through the motions of the day, breakfast with Emma, another movie in the media room, lunch that tasted like cardboard no matter how expertly Maria had prepared it. Emma chattered happily about the princess on screen, oblivious to the fact that her mother's hands were shaking every time she checked her phone. Around 3 in the afternoon, Alessio appeared in the doorway of the media room. He was dressed differently than Sophia had seen him before. Dark jeans, a black Henley, leather jacket. He looked less like a businessman and more like exactly what he was, someone capable of violence when necessary. Can I speak with you? He asked quietly. Maria can stay with Emma. Sophia followed him to his office, her heart hammering. He closed the door behind them and gestured for her to sit, but she remained standing, too wired to relax. I want to go over tonight's plan one more time, Alessio said, moving to the wall of monitors. He tapped one screen, and it expanded to show a detailed layout of Bluebird Coffee and the surrounding area. You'll arrive at 7:45. Marco will drive you. He'll be in plain clothes, looking like a friend dropping you off. You'll go inside, order a coffee, and sit at this table. He pointed to a spot near the window, but with clear sight lines to all the exits. Marco will be positioned here, in the bookstore across the street. Vincent will be at this corner, posing as a street vendor. I'll be in a vehicle here, monitoring everything through the cameras my team installed this morning. You installed cameras in a public coffee shop? I installed cameras in 6 locations surrounding the coffee shop, plus 2 inside the shop itself. By the time Michael arrives, I'll have visual coverage of every approach, every exit, and every person within a 3-block radius. Alessio zoomed in on the layout. Michael will most likely come from the east. That's the direction of the warehouse where he's been staying. When he enters, you'll greet him normally. Keep the conversation going. I need at least 10 minutes to confirm he has the flash drive on him and to verify he's not being followed by the Russians or anyone else. What if he doesn't have it with him? Then you'll convince him to go get it. Tell him you need money for Emma's medical bills and you know he has something valuable he can sell. Make him think you're desperate enough to help him move stolen property if it means Emma gets treatment. Play on his guilt, his ego, whatever works. Sophia wrapped her arms around herself. What if he knows it's a trap? He won't. Michael's too arrogant and too desperate to see you as a threat. In his mind, you're still the broke single mother he abandoned, someone he can manipulate with promises and apologies. Alessio's voice hardened. Use that. Let him think he has the upper hand right up until he doesn't. And when you have what you need, you'll excuse yourself. Bathroom, phone call to check on Emma, whatever feels natural. Once you're clear of the immediate area, Marco will extract you to the secondary vehicle and bring you back here. What happens after that is not something you need to witness. Sophia met his eyes. I told you I wanted to be there when you questioned him. And I told you it's not advisable. I don't care what's advisable, Alessio. I need to hear him explain why he thought he could take my daughter. I need to look at his face when he realizes he's not getting away with any of it. Her voice cracked. I need closure, or I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what I could have done differently, how I missed the signs, why I wasn't enough to make him be a decent father. Alessio was quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Finally, he nodded. All right, but not at the coffee shop. After we have him secured, after we've recovered the drive, I'll bring him to a secondary location. You can be there for the initial questioning, but the moment I think it's becoming harmful to you or dangerous for the operation, you leave. No arguments. No arguments, Sophia agreed. He moved closer, and Sophia was struck again by how much space he took up in a room, how his presence seemed to pull all the oxygen toward him. I need you to understand something, Ms. Ellis. What you're about to do tonight, helping me apprehend Michael, it changes things. You're crossing a line from civilian to participant. Once you do this, there's no going back to your old life. The woman who walked into this house 2 nights ago won't be the same woman who walks out when this is over. Good, Sophia said quietly, because that woman let her daughter's father groom her for a kidnapping. That woman was too tired and too poor and too desperate to see what was happening right in front of her. I don't want to be her anymore. Something flickered in Alessio's ice-blue eyes, respect, maybe, or recognition. Get some rest. Marco will collect you at 7:30. But rest was impossible. Sophia spent the remaining hours with Emma, memorizing the sound of her daughter's laugh, the way her curls fell across her forehead, the absolute trust in her eyes when she looked at her mother. If tonight went wrong, if Michael had backup Alessio didn't know about, if the Russians showed up, if any of 1,000 variables shifted, Emma might grow up without her mother. The thought made Sophia's chest tight, but she pushed it away. She'd already decided. Michael had taken enough from them. He didn't get to take any more. At 7:15, Sophia changed into the clothes Maria had laid out. Jeans, a simple sweater, boots that looked casual, but Alessio had probably chosen because they'd be easy to run in if necessary. She checked on Emma one last time. Her daughter was curled up on the couch with Maria, watching yet another princess movie, her fever completely gone and her energy returning. Mommy has to go out for a little while, Sophia said, kneeling beside the couch. But I'll be back soon, okay? Where are you going? Emma asked, not taking her eyes off the screen. To meet someone. It's boring adult stuff. You stay here with Maria and be good, all right? Okay, Mommy. Emma reached out and patted Sophia's cheek with one small hand. Love you. Love you too, baby. So much. Marco was waiting in the foyer, looking nothing like the dangerous man Sophia had met in Alessio's office. He wore a college sweatshirt and wire-rimmed glasses, his usual intensity masked behind a friendly, forgettable face. The transformation was remarkable. Ready? He asked. No, but let's go anyway. The drive into the city was silent except for the radio playing soft jazz. Marco navigated traffic with the ease of someone who knew every shortcut, every pattern, every variable. They arrived at Bluebird Coffee at exactly 7:43. Remember, Marco said as Sophia reached for the door handle, order your coffee, sit at the table near the window, and act natural. We're watching every second. You're safe. Sophia nodded and stepped out into the cool evening air. The coffee shop was moderately busy, exactly as Alessio had predicted. Couples on dates, students with laptops, a few people reading books, normal people living normal lives, completely unaware that in 15 minutes, this place would become the center of an operation to recover stolen intelligence and apprehend a man who'd crossed the wrong family. Sophia ordered a latte she knew she wouldn't drink and took the table Alessio had specified. From here, She could see the entrance, the counter, and most of the seating area. She pulled out her phone and pretended to scroll through social media, but her eyes kept flicking to the door. 7:52, 7:56, 7:59. At 8:03, Michael walked through the door. He looked terrible. His hair was unwashed, his clothes rumpled, dark circles under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and constant stress. He scanned the coffee shop nervously, his gaze sliding past Sophia twice before recognizing her. When he did, something in his expression softened, relief maybe, or the muscle memory of familiarity. He crossed to her table and stood there awkwardly. "Hey, Soph." "Sit down, Michael." He sat, his hands fidgeting with the zipper of his jacket. Up close, he looked even worse. Thin to the point of gaunt, a cut on his cheek that was healing badly, the jittery energy of someone running on fear and adrenaline. "How's Emma?" he asked. "She's better." The antibiotics finally kicked in. Sophia kept her voice level, remembering Alessio's instructions. Natural. Believable. Like she was just a worried mother meeting her deadbeat ex, not bait in a carefully orchestrated trap. "Thank you for coming. I know you're dealing with stuff." "Yeah, well..." Michael looked around the coffee shop, still nervous. "You said she was asking for me?" "She was. She had a fever and she was scared and she kept saying she wanted her daddy." The lie came easily, powered by the rage Sophia was barely keeping contained. "She drew a picture of us, a family. You, me, her." Michael's face crumpled. "God, Sophia, I never wanted any of this. I never wanted to hurt you or Emma. You have to believe that." "Then why did you?" The question came out sharper than Sophia intended. "Why did you disappear on us? Why did you stop paying child support? Why did you take Emma places without telling me and convince her to keep secrets?" Michael's head snapped up. "What? I don't know what you're talking about." "Ice cream, Michael. Parks. A carousel. A unicorn backpack. Emma told me all about the nice man who took her on adventures and promised her she wouldn't be cold anymore." Sophia leaned forward. "Was that before or after you decided to kidnap her?" The color drained from Michael's face. "Jesus Christ, Sophia, keep your voice down. You don't understand what you're talking about." "Then explain it to me. Explain why my 4-year-old daughter knows things about you that I don't. Explain why you had her passport in a backpack with $2,000 cash. Explain what the hell you've gotten us into." Michael was sweating now, his eyes darting around the coffee shop like he expected someone to jump out at him. "I can't. Not here. Not... Fuck, Sophia. You have no idea how deep this goes. The people I'm dealing with, the things they'll do." "Tell me about the Castellis," Sophia said quietly. Michael went absolutely still. For a long moment he just stared at her, and Sophia could see the calculations happening behind his eyes. Fear warring with self-preservation, truth fighting against habitual deception. "How do you know that name?" he finally whispered. "Because I'm not an idiot, Michael. I've been putting pieces together. You disappear, you move out of your apartment in the middle of the night, you're hiding in Brooklyn with people I don't know, and suddenly Emma's talking about adventures and new identities. What did you steal from them?" "I didn't steal anything. I was hired to acquire something, and then the deal went bad, and now everyone wants me dead, and I'm just trying to survive long enough to..." Stopped, seeming to realize he was saying too much. "To what? Run away with Emma? Start a new life somewhere I couldn't find you?" "To protect her." Michael's voice rose, and several people glanced their way. He lowered it to an urgent whisper. "To protect both of you." "Sophia, the people who hired me, they know about you and Emma. They know where you live, where she goes to daycare, everything. I was trying to get enough money together to move you somewhere safe before they decided to use you as leverage against me." It was almost believable. Almost. If Sophia hadn't seen the photos, hadn't heard Emma's innocent recounting of their secret adventures, hadn't watched Alessio's team piece together evidence of Michael's real plan, she might have bought it. "You're lying," she said flatly. "You're not trying to protect us. You're trying to save yourself, and you thought Emma would make good collateral or good cover or good... I don't even know what. But don't you dare sit there and pretend this was about keeping us safe." "Sophia, please. Do you have the flash drive with you?" Michael blinked. "What?" "The thing you stole from the Castellis. The information that's making everyone hunt you. Do you have it here, or did you hide it somewhere?" How do you... Michael's face went white. Oh my God! Oh my God, Sophia, what did you do? Who did you talk to? Someone who actually wants to help me. Unlike you. Michael stood up so fast his chair scraped loudly against the floor. We need to go, right now. They're probably watching us. If the Castellis know you know about the drive, they'll think you're involved. They'll... Sit down, Michael. No, no, we're leaving. We're getting Emma and we're getting out of New York tonight. I have money. I have a plan. We can go to Canada or... I said sit down. Sophia's voice cut through his panic like a knife. Or I walk out that door and you never see Emma again. Not through lawyers, not through supervised visits, not ever. Your choice. Michael sat, his hands shaking. You don't understand what you've done. The Castellis don't forgive, Sophia. They don't forget. If they know you're connected to me, if they think you know anything about what I took, I'm already connected to you, Michael. I've been connected to you since the moment I got pregnant 4 years ago. You made sure of that, and then you made it worse by dragging us into your mess. Sophia pulled out her phone, her finger hovering over a text to Alessio. Last chance. Tell me the truth about Emma. Tell me what you were really planning. Michael's composure cracked completely. I was going to take her somewhere safe. Somewhere the Russians and the Koreans and the Castellis couldn't find us. I know you think I'm a bad father, and maybe I am, but she's still my daughter. I made her too. I have a right to protect her. You have a right to nothing, Sophia said coldly. You abandoned us. You ignored every message, every call, every plea for help, and now you want credit for trying to kidnap your own child? It's not kidnapping if she's mine too. The words hung between them, and Sophia saw it clearly now. The entitlement, the refusal to accept responsibility, the ability to reframe every selfish choice as somehow noble or necessary. Michael genuinely believed he was the victim here. He genuinely thought taking Emma without Sophia's knowledge or consent was protection rather than theft. You're unbelievable, Sophia whispered. You're actually insane. No, Sophia, listen to me. He reached across the table to grab her hand, but before he could make contact, two things happened simultaneously. The front door of the coffee shop opened and Vincent walked in, his massive frame blocking most of the light, and Sophia's phone buzzed with a text from Alessio. We have confirmation. He's wearing the drive on a chain around his neck. Get clear, now. Sophia stood abruptly. I need to use the restroom. Sophia, wait. But she was already moving, weaving through tables toward the back hallway where the bathrooms were. Behind her, she heard Michael call her name, heard the scrape of his chair as he started to follow. Then Vincent's calm voice cut through the ambient noise of the coffee shop. Michael Donovan, I need you to come with me. Sophia didn't look back. She pushed through the hallway, past the bathrooms, and out the back exit into an alley where Marco was waiting with a dark sedan, engine running. In, he said, opening the passenger door. Sophia slid inside and Marco pulled away from the curb before she'd even closed the door. Through the side mirror, she caught a glimpse of the coffee shop's front entrance, where Vincent and another man were escorting Michael outside with practiced efficiency. No scene, no shouting, just a firm grip on each arm and the subtle flash of something under Vincent's jacket that made Michael stop struggling. They had him. Marco drove in silence for several blocks before speaking. You did well. Kept him talking, got the confirmation we needed, extracted cleanly. Alessio will be pleased. Where are you taking me? Back to the house. Alessio will contact you when he's ready for you to be present during questioning. How long will that be? Couple hours, maybe. They need to sweep Michael for tracking devices, search him properly, verify the drive is genuine, and he doesn't have copies hidden elsewhere. Standard procedure. Standard procedure for interrogating someone who'd stolen from the Castelli family. Standard procedure for a world Sophia had fallen into by accident and was now navigating like it was normal. They arrived back at the mansion just after 9. Emma was already asleep, Maria reported, having fought bedtime for approximately 7 minutes before exhaustion won. Sophia checked on her anyway, needing to see her daughter's peaceful face, needing the reminder of why she'd done what she'd just done. Emma slept with her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest, her breathing easy and unlabored, her fever gone like it had never been. Safe, protected, completely unaware that her mother had just helped apprehend her father. Sophia sat in the dark nursery and waited. At 11:17, her phone buzzed. "We're ready. Marco will bring you." The drive took 40 minutes, heading deeper into industrial areas where buildings sat dark and abandoned, where streetlights flickered or didn't work at all, where the only sounds were distant traffic and the occasional siren. Marco pulled up to a warehouse that looked like every other warehouse on the block. Unremarkable, forgettable, the kind of place people passed without seeing. Inside was a different story. The main floor had been converted into something that looked half office, half operations center. Computers lined one wall, showing feeds from what must have been dozens of cameras around the city. A conference table dominated the center of the room, covered in documents and photos and equipment Sophia couldn't identify. Men in dark suits moved with purpose, speaking in low voices, the controlled chaos of people executing a complex plan. Alessio stood near the back wall, listening to Vincent report something. When he saw Sophia, he excused himself and crossed to her. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly. "I want to prepare you for what you're about to see. Michael has been searched and secured. We've recovered the flash drive from around his neck, and we're currently verifying it's the original and not a duplicate. He's in the back room, restrained but unharmed. I'm going to ask him questions about his plans regarding Emma, about the people he's working with, and about any copies he may have made of the stolen data. You can observe, but you cannot intervene. Understood?" "Understood." Alessio studied her face. "If at any point this becomes too much, if you need to leave, there's no shame in that. What you're about to witness isn't going to be pleasant. I'm not leaving until I hear him explain why he thought he could take my daughter." "All right, follow me." He led her through the warehouse to a door at the back. Through it was a smaller room, concrete walls and floor, a single metal chair bolted to the ground. Michael sat in that chair, his hands zip-tied behind his back, his face bruised and swelling on one side. When he saw Sophia, his expression went from fear to confusion to betrayal in rapid succession. "Sophia, what? Oh my God, what did you do? What the fuck did you do?" "I did what I had to do to protect my daughter," Sophia said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Something you never bothered to learn how to do." Alessio positioned himself in front of Michael, blocking part of Sophia's view. Two other men flanked the door, Marco and someone Sophia didn't recognize. The temperature in the room felt 10 degrees colder than the rest of the warehouse. "Michael Donovan," Alessio said calmly, "we're going to have a conversation about the choices you've made over the past 6 months. How honest you are determines how this evening ends for you. Do you understand?" "Fuck you. I want a lawyer. I want—" Alessio moved so fast Sophia barely tracked it. One moment he was standing casually, the next his hand was gripping Michael's jaw, forcing his head back at an angle that looked painful. "You're not under arrest, Mr. Donovan. You're not entitled to a lawyer. You're sitting in my warehouse after stealing from my family and putting a 4-year-old child in danger. The only thing you're entitled to is the opportunity to convince me you're worth keeping alive. I suggest you start talking." He released Michael's jaw and stepped back. Michael was panting, his eyes wide with terror. "What do you want to know?" "Let's start with Emma," Alessio said, and Sophia's breath caught. "You've been secretly spending time with her for approximately 6 months, taking her places without her mother's knowledge or permission, buying her things, making her promises. Why?" I'm her father. I wanted to know her. Wanted her to know me." "Try again, and this time, don't insult my intelligence." Michael swallowed hard. "I needed a backup plan. Something in case the deal with the Russians went bad. I thought if I had Emma, if I could disappear with her, they wouldn't hurt me because I'd have leverage. A kid. They wouldn't risk killing the father of a kid." Sophia felt like she'd been punched. Hearing it confirmed, hearing Michael admit he'd planned to use Emma as a human shield, made her vision blur with rage. "So your daughter was insurance," Alessio said flatly. "Protection against the consequences of your own poor decisions. I would have taken care of her. I wouldn't have let anything happen to her. You took photographs of her without permission. You stole her passport. You built an escape plan that included removing her from the only home she's ever known and the only parent who's ever actually cared for her." Alessio's voice went cold. "That's not protection, Mr. Donovan. That's kidnapping. And if you'd succeeded, it would have destroyed that child's entire life." "Better destroyed than dead," Michael was crying now, tears and snot running down his face. You don't understand the kind of people I was dealing with. The Voronovs don't fuck around. They would have killed Sophia to get to me. They would have killed Emma. I was trying to save her from that. By traumatizing her instead? By making her complicit in your crimes? By turning her into a fugitive before she could even read? I didn't have a choice. You had dozens of choices, Alessio said quietly. You could have not stolen from my family. You could have not worked with the Russians. You could have walked away from all of it and focused on being a father to the child you'd already abandoned. Every single step of this disaster was a choice you made, Mr. Donovan. Own it. Michael's head dropped forward. I fucked up. I know I fucked up. But I swear to you, I never meant for Emma or Sophia to get hurt. I just wanted to make enough money to give them a better life. Stop, Sophia said. The word came out harder than she intended, cutting through the room like a blade. Both Michael and Alessio turned to look at her. Stop lying. Stop pretending this was ever about us. You wanted money for yourself. You've never given a damn about whether Emma had heat in her apartment or food in her stomach or medicine when she was sick. You've ignored every message, every call, every attempt I made to get you to be even a marginally decent father. So don't you dare sit there and claim you did any of this for our benefit. Sophia, please, I'm not finished. She stepped closer, her hands clenched into fists. You groomed our daughter. You made her keep secrets from me. You stole her passport and planned to take her away from everything she knows. And you're trying to frame it as protection when we both know it was just you being the same selfish, cowardly piece of shit you've always been. You don't get to rewrite history now that you're caught. You don't get to pretend you were trying to be noble. Michael was sobbing openly now. I'm sorry. God, Sophia, I'm so sorry. I never wanted it to be like this. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did hurt us. Every single day for 4 years you hurt us by not being there, by not caring, by not even trying. Sophia's voice cracked. And the worst part is that Emma still loves you. She still drew pictures of you. She still calls you the nice man. And you were planning to use that love, that innocent, undeserved love, to manipulate her into helping you escape the consequences of your own actions. She turned to Alessio. I've heard enough. Do whatever you need to do with him. I don't care anymore. Alessio nodded once. Marco, take Miss Ellis back to the car. But Sophia had one more thing to say. She leaned down so she was eye level with Michael, so close she could see the fear and regret and pathetic self-pity in his expression. Emma's not going to remember you, she said quietly. She's 4 years old. In a year, maybe 2, her memories of you will fade. She won't remember the ice cream or the carousel or the promises you made. All she'll know is that her mother loved her enough to keep her safe, and you'll just be a name in paperwork, nothing more. Michael let out a broken sound, but Sophia was already walking away. Marco fell into step beside her, guiding her back through the warehouse and out to the car. She climbed into the passenger seat and stared straight ahead, her body shaking with adrenaline and emotion she couldn't quite name. You did good, Marco said as he started the engine. Standing up to him like that. A lot of people couldn't have done it. I had to, Sophia said simply. For Emma. So she knows her mother fought for her. They drove back to the mansion in silence. When they arrived, Sophia went straight to the nursery and climbed into bed beside her sleeping daughter, wrapping her arms around Emma's small body and breathing in the scent of baby shampoo and innocence. I kept you safe, she whispered into Emma's curls. I promise, baby, I'll always keep you safe. Emma stirred in her sleep, curling closer to Sophia's warmth, her small hand fisting in her mother's shirt. And Sophia lay there in the darkness, listening to her daughter breathe, waiting for her own heartbeat to slow to something approaching normal. She'd done it. She'd looked Michael in the eye and told him exactly what he was. She'd helped Alessio recover the stolen drive. She'd made it possible for this nightmare to end. But as the adrenaline faded and exhaustion crept in, Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest part was yet to come. Because Alessio had warned her, once you cross certain lines, once you participate in this world, there's no going back to who you were before. And Sophia was beginning to understand exactly what that meant. Sophia woke to the sound of voices in the hallway outside the nursery. Male voices, low and urgent, speaking in rapid Italian. She disentangled herself carefully from Emma's sleeping form and moved to the door, opening it just enough to see Alessio standing with Marco and Vincent, all three looking like they'd been up all night. Alessio noticed her immediately. His tie was gone, his shirt sleeves still rolled up, and there was something in his expression that made Sophia's stomach clench with apprehension. "We need to talk," he said quietly. "Can you meet me downstairs in 10 minutes?" Sophia nodded, her throat too tight for words. She closed the door and leaned against it, trying to calm her racing heart. Something had happened. Something big enough to warrant Alessio showing up at 6 in the morning looking like the weight of the world had just increased. She checked on Emma one more time, still sleeping peacefully, her little face relaxed and healthy, then made her way downstairs to the dining room where she'd had breakfast with Alessio 2 days ago. It felt like a lifetime had passed since then. Alessio was alone when she arrived, standing by the window with a coffee cup in his hand, staring out at the grounds. He turned when she entered, and in the early morning light, Sophia could see the exhaustion etched into his features. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the table. "Please." Sophia sat, her hands folded in her lap to keep them from shaking. Alessio took the chair across from her and set his coffee down with careful precision. "Michael talked," he began without preamble. Once he realized the severity of his situation, he became very cooperative. He gave us the locations of 3 backup copies of the stolen data, one in a storage unit in Queens, one with his cousin Tommy, and one uploaded to a cloud server using an encrypted account. My team has spent the night recovering and destroying all of them. "That's good, right?" Sophia asked. "That's what you needed?" "It's part of what I needed, but Michael also revealed something else. Something that changes the equation considerably." Alessio's ice-blue eyes locked onto hers. "The Voronov organization knew about you and Emma before Michael ever stole from my family. They've been using the threat against you as leverage to keep Michael compliant. And now that Michael's been taken out of play, they're going to assume you know where he hid the information, which means you're still a target." The room seemed to tilt. "But you have the drive, you have all the copies. There's nothing for them to get from me." "They don't know that. From their perspective, Michael's girlfriend and the mother of his child are logical places to hide valuable intelligence. They'll come for you, Sophia. Maybe not today, maybe not this week, but they will come. And when they do, they won't be as patient or as reasonable as I've been." Sophia's breath came faster. "So what am I supposed to do? Hide forever? Run every time someone knocks on my door?" "No. You're supposed to let me handle this the way it needs to be handled." Alessio leaned forward, his expression intense. "I can neutralize the Voronov threat. I can make it clear that you're under my protection and that any move against you is a move against the Castelli family. But that level of protection comes with implications. It means you're associated with me publicly. It means anyone who sees you will know you're connected to my organization. It means the life you had before, working at a diner, living anonymously in Queens, raising Emma without any ties to this world. That life is over." "It was already over the moment I sent that text message," Sophia said quietly. "You said it yourself. I crossed a line. There's no going back." "There's always a choice, Ms. Ellis. I could arrange new identities for you and Emma. Send you somewhere far from New York with enough money to start fresh, and the kind of documentation that would make you disappear completely. You'd be safe, but you'd also be alone. No family, no friends, no connection to anything or anyone from your previous life. Just you and Emma against the world, in a place where no one knows your real name." It was what Sophia had asked for originally. Safety, a clean break, a chance to start over. But the thought of leaving, of taking Emma and running to some anonymous city where they knew no one, where Sophia would have to build an entire life from nothing while constantly looking over her shoulder, made her chest constrict with fear. "What's the alternative?" she asked. Alessio was quiet for a long moment, studying her face with an intensity that made Sophia feel exposed. "The alternative is you stay. You accept my protection in full, which means living under my roof for the foreseeable future, accepting the security measures I deem necessary, and allowing me to manage the threat against you until it's completely eliminated. It means Emma grows up in this house, with bodyguards and protocols and an understanding that her mother is connected to a world most people pretend doesn't exist. It means you trust me with your safety and your daughter's safety completely." "And what do you get out of this arrangement?" Sophia heard herself ask. "You're not offering all of this out of the goodness of your heart. What's in it for you, Alessio?" A ghost of a smile crossed his lips. You're learning. That's good. He picked up his coffee cup, took a sip, then set it down again. What I get is a resolution to a problem that could have destabilized several carefully balanced relationships in this city. Michael's theft wasn't just about the information on that drive. It was about disrespect. About someone thinking they could steal from the Castelli family without consequences. By recovering the drive and neutralizing the threat, I've sent a message to every other organization in New York that we're not weak, not vulnerable, not to be tested. That doesn't explain why you'd keep us here, why you'd extend your protection beyond just recovering your property. No, it doesn't. Alessio's gaze held hers. The truth is, Ms. Ellis, I respect what you did. The way you handled yourself during the meeting with Michael, the way you stood up to him in that warehouse, the way you've protected your daughter through circumstances that would have broken most people. That takes a particular kind of strength, the kind I don't often encounter. And strength like that, properly directed, is valuable. You want something from me, Sophia said slowly. Some kind of… what? Service? Loyalty? I want you to consider staying because it's the best option for you and Emma, not because you're fleeing or hiding or desperately trying to survive. I want you to choose this life with clear eyes and full understanding of what it means. He paused. But yes, if you stay, I would expect certain things. Discretion about what you've witnessed and what you know. Compliance with security protocols. Trust that when I make decisions about your safety, those decisions are informed by experience and expertise you don't have. That sounds like control. It is control, but it's also protection. The two aren't mutually exclusive, Sophia. Sometimes the safest cage is the one you walk into willingly because you understand what's waiting outside the bars. Sophia thought about her apartment in Queens with its broken locks and peeling paint, thought about working double shifts at the diner for tips that barely covered groceries. Thought about the constant fear of eviction, of not being able to afford Emma's medicine, of Michael showing up drunk or high or desperate and causing a scene. That had been a cage too, just a different kind. How long do I have to decide? She asked. 24 hours. The Voronovs will expect to hear from Michael by tonight. When they don't, they'll start asking questions. I need to know whether you're staying under my protection or disappearing before those questions turn into actions. Sophia stood on shaking legs. I need to think. I need to be with Emma. Of course. Take the time you need. But Sophia? Alessio stood as well, and even exhausted and disheveled, he commanded the room. Whatever you decide, know that I meant what I said about new identities. If you choose to leave, I'll make sure you and Emma have everything you need to build a good life somewhere safe. You're not trapped here. You have options, real ones. Sophia nodded and left the dining room, her mind spinning. She made her way back upstairs and found Emma awake, sitting up in bed and rubbing her eyes sleepily. Mommy, I'm hungry. Let's get you some breakfast, baby. They went down to the kitchen, a massive space that Sophia had barely seen, all marble countertops and professional-grade appliances where Maria was already preparing food. She smiled when she saw Emma and immediately set about making pancakes shaped like butterflies while Sophia watched numbly. This could be Emma's life. Growing up in a mansion with staff who catered to her every need, with the best schools and doctors and opportunities money could buy. Protected from poverty and violence and all the ugliness Sophia had worked so hard to shield her from. But also growing up knowing her mother was connected to organized crime. Growing up with bodyguards and security protocols. Growing up in a world where trust was currency and violence was always just beneath the surface. Emma ate her butterfly pancakes with enthusiasm, chattering about her dreams and asking if they could go swimming in the pool she'd seen from her window. She was so innocent, so untouched by the decisions being made around her, and Sophia's heart ached with the weight of what she had to choose. Around noon, Dr. Chen arrived for Emma's follow-up appointment. She pronounced Emma fully recovered and cleared her to resume normal activities, which Emma celebrated by running circles around the media room while Sophia tried to keep up. She's got excellent energy, Dr. Chen observed with a smile. That's exactly what we want to see. I'll come back in a week to make sure everything's still progressing well, but honestly, she's a very healthy little girl. You've done a wonderful job with her, Ms. Ellis. Thank you, Sophia whispered. I've tried. It shows. Dr. Chen packed up her medical bag. Mr. Castelli asked me to remind you that if you need anything, anything at all, I'm available 24/7. You're not alone in this, whatever this ends up being. After Dr. Chen left, Sophia took Emma outside to the gardens. It was a beautiful late February day, cold but sunny, and Emma ran ahead on the paths while Sophia followed at a distance. The grounds seemed to go on forever, meticulously maintained lawns, sculptured hedges, a fountain that Emma was absolutely enchanted by. Two men in dark suits maintained a subtle perimeter, never intrusive but always present, protection or surveillance, depending on how Sophia chose to interpret it. "Mommy, can we live here forever?" Emma asked, splashing her hands in the fountain's pool despite the cold water. "I don't know, baby. Maybe. Would you like that?" "Yes. It's so pretty, and Maria makes the best food, and there's a pool, and I have my own room with a princess bed." Emma's enthusiasm was infectious. "Can we stay, Mommy? Please?" Sophia looked at her daughter's hopeful face, at the joy radiating from her, at the health and energy that had been absent for so long. Emma didn't understand the implications of staying. She just knew she was warm and fed and safe and happy. Maybe that was enough. That evening, after Emma had been bathed and fed and tucked into bed with her stuffed rabbit, Sophia made her way to Alessio's office. She knocked once and entered without waiting for permission. He was at his desk, surrounded by paperwork and looking even more exhausted than he had that morning. But he straightened when he saw her, giving her his full attention. "I've made my decision," Sophia said. "I'm listening. I want to stay, but I have conditions." Alessio's eyebrow rose fractionally. "You're negotiating again, Ms. Ellis?" "I'm protecting my daughter's interests. There's a difference." Sophia took a deep breath. "If Emma and I stay here, I need guarantees. I need to know she'll have access to good schools, to therapy if she needs it, to a normal childhood as much as that's possible given the circumstances. I need to know that if something happens to me, she'll be taken care of. And I need to know that when she's old enough to make her own choices, she'll be free to leave if she wants to. Done. I'm not finished. I also need to be useful. I can't just sit in this mansion and let you provide for us without contributing something. I need to work, to have purpose beyond just being someone you're protecting. Whatever that looks like in your world, I need to be part of something." Alessio leaned back in his chair, studying her with those ice blue eyes that seemed to see straight through her. "You're asking to be involved in my organization's operations. I'm asking to not be a kept woman and a charity case. I'm asking to earn the protection you're offering instead of just accepting it like some kind of damsel in distress. What skills do you have that would be useful to me?" It was a fair question. Sophia thought about her life before all this, the diner shifts, the budgeting, the constant problem-solving required to keep herself and Emma alive on minimum wage. "I'm good with people," she said slowly. "I can read situations, understand what someone needs to hear versus what they want to hear. I'm organized, detail-oriented, and I work well under pressure. I learn fast and I don't quit when things get difficult. And most importantly, I know what it's like to be desperate, which means I understand the kind of people who might be vulnerable to working with or against your organization." Alessio was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood and crossed to the window, looking out at the darkened grounds. "There's a legitimate side to my family's business," he finally said. "Real estate holdings, investments, businesses that operate completely above board. Those operations require management, oversight, someone who can interface with normal society without raising suspicions. I could use someone in that capacity, someone smart enough to handle complex logistics but not so embedded in this world that they draw attention." "You're offering me a job?" "I'm offering you a purpose, as you requested. It won't be glamorous. It'll be long hours and complicated work, and you'll need to learn very quickly. But it would make you a legitimate part of this organization, not just someone I'm protecting out of obligation." Sophia moved to stand beside him at the window. "What happened to Michael?" "He's alive. He's being held in a secure location until I can verify that all the intelligence has been recovered and no additional copies exist. Once that's confirmed, he'll be released far from New York with strong encouragement to never return." "Will he try to see Emma?" "No. Part of his release agreement includes forfeiting all parental rights. He'll sign the paperwork tomorrow. You'll have full custody with no possibility of him contesting it." Relief flooded Sophia's system. "Thank you." Don't thank me yet. What I'm about to tell you might change your decision to stay. Alessio turned to face her fully. The Voronov situation is more complicated than I initially revealed. Viktor Voronov, the head of their organization, has a personal stake in the information Michael stole. It includes details about his operations that could get him arrested or killed by his own people. He's not going to let this go quietly. Meaning? Meaning I'm going to have to meet with him, negotiate a resolution that satisfies his need for retribution while protecting my own interests. And part of those negotiations will involve you. Sophia's stomach dropped. You're going to use me as a bargaining chip? No, I'm going to present you as someone under my protection who had no knowledge of or involvement in Michael's theft. I'm going to make it clear that any action against you will be considered an act of war against my family. But Victor will want proof that you're genuinely under my protection and not just a convenient story I'm telling to shield a co-conspirator. What kind of proof? Alessio hesitated, and that hesitation told Sophia everything she needed to know about how uncomfortable he was with what he was about to say. He'll want to see you, confirm that you exist, that you're actually here, that my protection is real and not just posturing. It'll be a brief meeting, highly controlled, with my people present at all times. But it's necessary to close this situation permanently. When? Tomorrow night. I'll bring him here to the house and you'll join us for dinner. You'll be polite, answer any direct questions honestly, and demonstrate that you're exactly what I'm claiming, a civilian who got caught up in Michael's mess through no fault of your own. Sophia thought about sitting at a table with a Russian mob boss, about being scrutinized and assessed and judged by someone who could order her death with a phone call. The thought made her want to vomit, but she also thought about Emma sleeping upstairs safe and healthy and happy. Thought about the alternative, running to some unknown city with a child in a suitcase and a fake name, constantly afraid of being found. Okay, she said quietly. I'll do it. But Emma stays out of sight. She doesn't meet him, doesn't even know he's here. Agreed. Maria will keep her occupied in the East Wing. Victor won't even know she exists. Alessio's expression softened fractionally. I know this is asking a lot, Sophia. More than most people would be willing to give, but I need you to trust that I know what I'm doing. I've navigated situations like this before. I'll keep you safe. You keep saying that. Keep me safe. Protect me. But Alessio, I need you to understand something. Sophia met his eyes directly. I'm not doing this just because you're offering protection. I'm doing this because, for the first time in 4 years, I'm not drowning. For the first time since Emma was born, I'm not terrified every single day that I won't be able to provide for her. This life you're offering, it's not perfect, and it's definitely not normal, but it's better than what I had. And I'm willing to fight to keep it. Something shifted in Alessio's expression. Surprise, maybe, or respect. You're stronger than I gave you credit for. I'm a single mother who kept herself and her daughter alive on poverty wages while dealing with a deadbeat ex in a system designed to keep people like me struggling. Strength is the only thing I've ever had. Alessio smiled then, a genuine expression that transformed his face from intimidating to almost handsome. Then I think we'll work well together, Miss Ellis. Welcome to the family. The next day passed in a blur of preparation. Maria helped Sophia select appropriate clothing for the dinner with Viktor Voronov. Elegant but not flashy, professional but not cold. A simple black dress that fit perfectly. Understated jewelry. Heels that Sophia practiced walking in because she hadn't worn anything but sneakers in years. Emma, bless her, was completely oblivious to the tension in the house. She spent the day in the media room watching movies and playing with toys that had appeared seemingly from nowhere, while Sophia went over her story with Alessio and Marco until she could recite it in her sleep. She was Sophia Ellis, single mother, former girlfriend of Michael Donovan. She'd had no contact with Michael beyond attempted requests for child support. She knew nothing about his criminal activities until Alessio's people had contacted her. She was cooperating fully and grateful for the protection being offered. Nothing more, nothing less. As evening approached, Sophia's nerves ratcheted higher. She checked on Emma one last time before the meeting. Her daughter was having dinner with Maria in the East Wing, completely unaware that anything unusual was happening. Be good for Maria, okay, baby? I will, Mommy. You look pretty. Thank you, sweetheart. I'll check on you before bed. Sophia made her way downstairs, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. Alessio was in the foyer, dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Sophia's old car, looking every inch the powerful man he was. "Ready?" he asked quietly. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." That's all anyone can ask. He offered her his arm, and after a moment's hesitation, Sophia took it. "Remember, you're under my protection. Victor understands what that means. He won't threaten you, won't try to intimidate you. This is just verification, just closing a loop." A car pulled up outside, black, expensive, flanked by two other vehicles. Sophia watched through the window as four men emerged, three of them clearly security. The fourth was older, maybe 55 or 60, with silver hair and the kind of face that had seen violence and grown comfortable with it. Viktor Voronov. He entered the mansion like he owned it, his security fanning out to sweep the foyer before allowing him to proceed. His eyes landed on Sophia, and she forced herself to meet his gaze without flinching. "Alessio," Victor said, his accent thick and his voice gravelly. "This is the woman?" "Victor, this is Sophia Ellis." "Sophia, Viktor Voronov." Sophia extended her hand. "Mr. Voronov." Victor took her hand, his grip firm but not crushing, and studied her face with unsettling intensity. "You're the mother of Michael Donovan's child." "I am." "And you claim you knew nothing about what he stole from the Castelli family?" "I didn't even know Michael was involved with your organization or the Castellis until Mr. Castelli's people contacted me. Michael and I haven't been together in years. He's barely been involved in our daughter's life." Victor released her hand and turned to Alessio. "She's telling the truth. I can always tell when someone's lying, and she's not lying." "I told you she wasn't involved," Alessio said calmly. "You told me many things I needed to verify." Victor turned back to Sophia. "I apologize for any distress my organization may have caused you or your child. Michael Donovan made choices that put you in danger, and for that he will answer. But you have my word. You and your daughter are not targets. You're under Castelli protection, and I respect that." The relief that washed over Sophia was almost dizzying. "Thank you." "Come," Alessio said, gesturing toward the dining room. "Let's discuss the terms of our arrangement over dinner." The meal was surreal, sitting at a table with men who controlled vast criminal enterprises, discussing territory and operations and agreements like it was a normal business dinner. Sophia mostly listened, answering questions when directly addressed, but otherwise staying quiet. Victor was surprisingly charming when he wanted to be, telling stories about his early days in New York that were probably sanitized versions of violent reality. Alessio matched him drink for drink and story for story, the two of them circling each other verbally in a dance of mutual respect and barely concealed threat. By the time dessert was served, they'd reached an agreement. Victor's organization would consider the matter with Michael closed. The Castellis would provide certain considerations in disputed territories. Everyone walked away satisfied that they hadn't lost face or ground. And Sophia sat there, watching it all unfold, understanding that this was her life now. This was the world she'd chosen to enter. When Victor finally left, shaking Alessio's hand and nodding respectfully to Sophia, the tension in the house evaporated like steam. "You did perfectly," Alessio said once they were alone. "Better than perfectly. Victor believed you completely." "I wasn't lying." "I know. That's what made it so effective." He poured himself a drink from the bar in the living room. "The threat is neutralized, Sophia. The Voronovs won't come after you. The Koreans and the Irish were never really in play. They were just opportunistic vultures hoping to profit from someone else's mess. You and Emma are safe now. Actually safe, not just theoretically safe." Sophia sank onto the couch, the adrenaline finally draining away and leaving her exhausted. "It's really over?" "The immediate crisis is over. Your new life is just beginning." Alessio sat in the chair across from her. "Tomorrow, we'll start your training. You'll learn how the legitimate businesses operate, meet the people who manage them, begin understanding how everything connects. It'll be overwhelming at first, but I think you'll adapt quickly." "And Emma?" "I've already arranged enrollment at a private school 10 minutes from here. Small class sizes, excellent teachers, the kind of education that will give her every advantage. She starts next week with a security detail that will be invisible to her but always present." It was everything Sophia had wanted, everything she'd fought for, So why did she feel like crying? Hey, Alessio said softly, and when Sophia looked up, his expression was gentler than she'd ever seen it. It's okay to be overwhelmed. It's okay to feel like this is all happening too fast. You've been through trauma, Sophia. Multiple traumas, actually. You're allowed to process that. I just... Sophia's voice broke. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for this to all be some kind of trick or dream, for Michael to show up or the Voronovs to change their minds, or for you to decide we're too much trouble and throw us out. I've spent so long just trying to survive that I don't know how to do anything else. Then learn, Alessio said simply. Learn how to live instead of just survive. Learn how to trust that when I say you're safe, you actually are. Learn how to be the woman you could have been if circumstances had been different. He paused. And learn that accepting help doesn't make you weak. It makes you smart. Sophia wiped at her eyes, hating that she was crying in front of him, but unable to stop. Thank you for everything. For saving Emma, for protecting us, for giving us a chance at something better. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. You'll repay me by being exactly who you are. Strong, intelligent, fiercely protective of your daughter, and willing to fight for what matters. That's all I need from you, Sophia. The rest will fall into place. She nodded, not trusting her voice, and Alessio stood. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. And check on Emma. I'm sure she's wondering where you are. Sophia made her way upstairs and found Emma asleep in the princess bed, her stuffed rabbit tucked under one arm and a content smile on her face. Maria was sitting in a chair nearby, reading, and she looked up when Sophia entered. She went down easy, Maria said quietly. Asked about you a few times, but I told her you were at a boring adult dinner, and she accepted that. Thank you, Maria, for everything. It's my pleasure, Ms. Ellis, truly. Maria stood and headed for the door, then paused. Mr. Castelli, he's a good man. Complicated, certainly. Dangerous when he needs to be. But good. You and Emma, you're safe here. I hope you know that. After Maria left, Sophia climbed into bed beside Emma and pulled her daughter close. The room was warm, the bed was soft, and for the first time in longer than Sophia could remember, she felt something she'd almost forgotten how to feel. Hope. Morning came with golden sunlight streaming through the windows and the sound of Emma's laughter echoing from somewhere downstairs. Sophia lay in the too-soft bed for a moment, letting the reality of her new life settle over her like a blanket. The crisis was over. The threats were neutralized. Michael was out of their lives permanently. And yet somehow, the hardest part was just beginning. She found Emma in the kitchen with Maria, both of them covered in flour and giggling over a batch of cookies they were attempting to make. Emma's face lit up when she saw Sophia. Mommy, we're making chocolate chip cookies. Want to help? Maybe later, baby. I have some work to do with Mr. Castelli this morning. The words felt strange in her mouth. Work to do. Like she was a real professional with a real job instead of a broke single mother who'd stumbled into this world by accident. Okay, can I have a cookie when they're done? You can have 2 cookies, Sophia promised, kissing the top of Emma's head. Be good for Maria. She found Alessio in his study, already dressed for the day and surrounded by paperwork that seemed to multiply every time she saw him. He looked up when she entered and gestured to the chair across from his desk. Good morning. Coffee? Please. He poured her a cup from the carafe on his desk, and Sophia wrapped her hands around it, grateful for the warmth and the familiar ritual of morning caffeine. We need to discuss the practicalities of your situation, Alessio began, setting aside the file he'd been reviewing. You can't continue living in legal limbo. We need to establish a proper foundation for your new life. What does that mean? It means officially closing out your old life. You'll need to give notice at the diner. I'd suggest citing a family emergency that requires you to relocate. Your apartment lease needs to be terminated. Your belongings moved here or disposed of as you see fit. Emma's daycare should be notified that she's transferring to a new school. Any loose ends that might make someone curious about where Sophia Ellis disappeared to? The thought of calling her manager at the diner, a woman who'd been kind to Sophia in her own gruff way, and lying about why she was leaving made Sophia's stomach clench. But what was the alternative? Tell the truth? Explain that she'd accidentally texted a mob boss and now lived in his mansion? I'll make the calls today, Sophia said quietly. Good. I've also had my lawyers draw up custody paperwork terminating Michael's parental rights. He signed everything yesterday morning. It's done, Sophia. Legally, Emma is solely yours. He has no claim to her, no rights to visitation, no ability to contest your decisions regarding her upbringing. But relief washed over Sophia so powerfully, she had to set her coffee cup down before she spilled it. He really signed? He really signed. My people were very persuasive about the benefits of cooperation. Alessio's expression darkened slightly. He's been relocated to Arizona with enough money to start over and very clear instructions never to return to New York or attempt contact with you or Emma. If he violates those terms, the consequences will be severe. Where is he now? On a plane to Phoenix, accompanied by 2 of my people who will ensure he actually stays there. By tonight, he'll be someone else's problem entirely. Alessio paused. How do you feel about that? Sophia thought about Michael, the boy she'd fallen for in college. The man who'd disappointed her in every possible way, the father who'd planned to use their daughter as a bargaining chip. She waited for sadness or regret, or some echo of the love she'd once felt. All she felt was relief. I feel like Emma and I can finally breathe, she admitted, like maybe we can move forward instead of always looking backward. Good, because moving forward is exactly what we're going to do. Alessio stood and moved to a filing cabinet, pulling out a folder thick with documents. These are the details on the Castelli family's legitimate business operations. Real estate holdings, investment portfolios, the property management companies that oversee our rental units. I need someone to coordinate between the various managers, ensure everyone's operating efficiently, flag any problems before they become crises. Someone smart enough to see patterns and organized enough to manage complex logistics. He set the folder in front of Sophia and she opened it to find page after page of financial reports, property listings, organizational charts. It was overwhelming and intimidating and exactly the kind of challenge Sophia had been craving. This is a real job, she said, almost to herself. This is a real job with real responsibilities and real consequences if it's done poorly. You'll have an office downtown, a salary that reflects the importance of the position, and direct access to me if you encounter problems you can't solve independently. Alessio returned to his chair. You'll also have Vincent assigned as your driver and security. He'll take you to and from the office, accompany you to any meetings or site visits, and ensure your safety at all times. I don't need a bodyguard. You absolutely need a bodyguard. Victor Voronov may have agreed to leave you alone, but that doesn't mean everyone in this city knows or cares about that agreement. You're associated with me now, Sophia. That makes you both protected and potentially vulnerable. Vincent is non-negotiable. Sophia thought about arguing, but the steel in Alessio's voice told her it would be pointless. Fine. When do I start? Monday. That gives you the weekend to handle the logistics of closing out your old life and preparing Emma for her new school. It also gives you time to read through those files and come up with questions. He smiled slightly. I'm not throwing you into deep water without a life raft, Sophia. You'll have support every step of the way. The weekend passed in a blur of phone calls and difficult conversations. Sophia's manager at the diner was disappointed but understanding when Sophia explained she had to leave the city for family reasons. Her landlord was less understanding about breaking the lease early, but a check from Alessio's office for 3 months' rent solved that problem quickly. Emma's daycare director wished them well and promised to forward Emma's records to whatever school she enrolled in next. Marco and Vincent handled the physical move, boxing up the few belongings in Sophia's apartment that were worth keeping and donating the rest to charity. When Sophia walked through the empty apartment one last time, the place where she'd brought Emma home as a newborn, where they'd celebrated birthdays and holidays and survived countless difficult nights, she expected to feel sad. Instead, she felt liberated. This apartment had been a prison of poverty and struggle. Leaving it behind wasn't a loss. It was an escape. Sunday afternoon, Sophia took Emma to see her new school. The building was beautiful, old brownstone architecture renovated with modern amenities, small gardens in the courtyard, classrooms that looked like they belonged in magazines. The director gave them a tour showing Emma the art room and the library and the playground, and Emma's eyes grew wider with each new discovery. Mommy, this is the best school ever, Emma whispered, gripping Sophia's hand tightly. Do I really get to go here? You really get to go here, baby, starting tomorrow. That night, after Emma was asleep and the house had settled into quiet, Sophia found herself in Alessio's study again. He was working late as usual, reviewing contracts by lamplight, and he looked up when she knocked on the open door. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Too much to think about." Sophia entered and took her usual chair. "I wanted to thank you, again, for everything you've done for us." "You've thanked me enough, Sophia. At a certain point, it becomes unnecessary. I don't think I'll ever feel like I've thanked you enough. You gave us a life, Alessio. A real life with safety and stability and opportunities Emma never would have had otherwise. That's not something you can over-thank someone for." Alessio set down the contract he'd been reading and gave her his full attention. "You're giving me too much credit. I provided resources and protection, yes. But you're the one who made the hard choices. You're the one who faced down Michael and Viktor Voronov and every difficult moment of this transition without breaking. I facilitated, Sophia. You executed. We make a good team then." "We do." Something shifted in his expression, something Sophia couldn't quite read. "I should tell you something about why I've invested so much in helping you and Emma." Sophia's heart rate picked up. "Okay. When I was 8 years old, my mother left my father. She couldn't handle the violence of this life, the constant fear, the knowledge that every day might be the day someone decided to use her or my sister or me as leverage against him. She tried to take us with her, tried to build a safe life somewhere my father's enemies couldn't reach. But she had no money, no skills, no support system. She was a civilian trying to navigate a world designed to exploit people exactly like her." Alessio paused, his ice blue eyes distant with memory. "She lasted 6 months. Then my father's enemies found her. They killed her to send him a message, and they would have killed my sister and me too if my father's people hadn't arrived when they did. I was 9 years old, hiding in a closet, listening to my mother die because she didn't have the resources or the protection to survive the consequences of my father's choices." Sophia's breath caught. "Alessio, I'm so sorry." "Don't be sorry. Be aware." He leaned forward, his expression intense. "When I saw you in that apartment with Emma, struggling to survive on poverty wages, dealing with a man who'd abandoned you, facing threats you didn't understand from a world you'd never asked to be part of, I saw my mother, and I made a decision that I would not let history repeat itself. I would not let another woman and child suffer because they lacked the resources to protect themselves from the consequences of a man's poor decisions." Understanding dawned slowly, like sunrise. This was never just about recovering the flash drive. The flash drive was important. Michael needed to be dealt with. But you and Emma, you became important in a different way. You became a chance to do what I couldn't do as a child, to actually save someone. Sophia didn't know what to say. The revelation reframed everything she'd assumed about Alessio's motivations, everything she'd understood about their arrangement. "I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable," Alessio continued, "and I'm not asking for gratitude or anything else in return. I just wanted you to understand that my investment in your safety isn't purely practical. It's personal. And it's not going to end just because the immediate crisis is over. You and Emma are part of this family now, Sophia. That's not a temporary situation. That's permanent, if you want it to be." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that this house is your home for as long as you want it to be. The job I'm offering isn't charity or a temporary position. It's a career with room for growth and advancement. Emma's education, her security, her future, those are things I'm committing to long term. You're not guests here, Sophia. You're family, if you choose to accept that." The weight of what he was offering settled over Sophia like a blanket. Not just protection or employment, but belonging. A place in a world that had seemed impenetrable from the outside, but was revealing itself to be more complex and nuanced than she'd ever imagined. "Why?" she asked quietly. "Why are you willing to do all of this for us?" "Because you remind me that there's still good in this world worth protecting. Because Emma deserves a childhood free from fear and poverty. Because I have the resources to make a real difference in your lives. And choosing not to use those resources would make me complicit in your suffering." He paused. "And because somewhere along the way I started to care what happens to you, both of you." Sophia's heart did something complicated in her chest. A mixture of fear and hope, and something that might have been the beginning of trust, real trust, not the desperate survival-based trust she'd been operating on since the night she'd accidentally sent that text message. "I want to stay," she said, "not because I'm afraid of the alternative or because I don't have other options, but because being here, working with you, building a life for Emma in a place where she's actually safe, this is what I choose. Actively. Intentionally." Alessio smiled, and it transformed his usually serious face into something warm and genuine. "Then welcome home, Sophia Ellis. Officially." Monday morning arrived with the chaos of getting Emma ready for her first day at her new school. Sophia had laid out clothes the night before, but Emma changed her mind 3 times before settling on a blue dress with butterflies that Maria had magically procured from somewhere. Vincent waited patiently in the foyer while Sophia did Emma's hair and double-checked her backpack and tried not to project her own nervousness onto her daughter. "Ready, baby." "Ready." Emma grabbed her backpack, a new one, purple with unicorns, no traumatic associations with Michael or kidnapping plans, and bounced toward the door. The drive to the school was short, and Vincent pulled up to the entrance where other parents were dropping off their children. Sophia walked Emma to her classroom, meeting the teacher. Ms. Rodriguez, young and enthusiastic and immediately charmed by Emma's chatter, and watching her daughter integrate seamlessly into a group of kids playing with blocks. "She'll be fine," Ms. Rodriguez assured Sophia. "First days are always harder on parents than kids." Sophia kissed Emma goodbye and made her way back to the car, where Vincent was waiting. "She didn't even look back," Sophia said, not sure if she was hurt or proud. "That's good," Vincent replied, his gruff voice surprisingly gentle. "Means she feels safe. Kids only cling when they're scared." He drove her to the office Alessio had mentioned, a sleek building in Midtown with the Castelli Company logo discreetly displayed in the lobby. Sophia's office was on the 6th floor, a corner space with windows overlooking the city and furniture that probably cost more than Sophia's entire yearly salary at the diner. A woman in her 40s was waiting when Sophia arrived, her expression professional and warm. "Miss Ellis, I'm Patricia, your assistant. Mr. Castelli asked me to help you get oriented." "Shall we start with the current property portfolio?" The day was a whirlwind of information, spreadsheets and reports and meetings with managers who ran various aspects of the Castelli real estate empire. Patricia was patient and thorough, walking Sophia through each system and process, answering questions without making Sophia feel stupid for asking. By the time Vincent drove her back to pick up Emma from school, Sophia's brain was overflowing with new information and her feet hurt from the heels she still wasn't used to. But she also felt energized in a way she hadn't in years, challenged, useful, like she was actually building something instead of just desperately trying to survive. Emma bounded out of school full of stories about her new friends and the art project they'd made and how Ms. Rodriguez let them have extra time at recess. She chattered the entire drive home, and Sophia listened with a full heart, recognizing the joy in her daughter's voice as something that had been missing for too long. That night, after Emma was asleep and Sophia had changed into comfortable clothes, she found Alessio in the living room with a glass of wine, staring into the fireplace. "How was the first day?" he asked as she settled onto the couch. "Overwhelming, exhausting, amazing." Sophia accepted the glass of wine he poured for her. "I have so much to learn. Patricia must think I'm completely incompetent." "Patricia thinks you're smart and eager to learn, which are the only 2 qualities that matter. The rest is just training and experience." Alessio raised his glass in a small toast. "To new beginnings." "To new beginnings," Sophia echoed, clinking her glass against his. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the fire crackling and the house settling around them. Finally, Sophia asked the question that had been nagging at her all day. "What happens if I'm not good at this? The job, I mean. What if I can't handle the responsibility or I make mistakes that cost the company money?" "Then you'll learn from those mistakes and do better next time." "Sophia, I'm not expecting perfection. I'm expecting effort and growth, and the same determination you showed when you were raising Emma on minimum wage. That's all anyone can ask. And if someone from your world, someone who doesn't like that you've brought civilians into the organization, decides I'm a liability?" Alessio's expression went cold in a way that made Sophia remember exactly who she was talking to. Then they'll have to go through me to get to you, and I promise you, Sophia, no one goes through me without regretting it. The certainty in his voice should have been frightening. Instead, it made Sophia feel safer than she'd ever felt in her life. Weeks turned into months, and Sophia settled into her new life with surprising ease. The job that had seemed impossible at first became manageable, then interesting, then genuinely engaging. She discovered she had a knack for problem solving and people management, for seeing connections between different properties and operations that others missed. Patricia became a friend as well as an assistant, and the managers Sophia worked with gradually shifted from skepticism to respect. Emma thrived at her new school, making friends and excelling in her classes, her health robust and her spirit bright. She never asked about Michael, never seemed to miss him, and gradually the memories of their old life, the cold apartment, the constant worry, the fear, faded into something distant and unimportant. Sophia and Alessio fell into a rhythm of evening conversations by the fireplace, discussing business and life and everything in between. Sometimes Marco or Vincent joined them, their presence comfortable and familiar. Sometimes Maria would bring coffee and pastries and linger to share stories about her own family. The mansion that had felt like a fortress began to feel like a home. One evening in late April, Sophia was reviewing reports in her office at home when Alessio knocked on her door. "Do you have a minute?" he asked. "For you?" "Always." He entered and closed the door behind him, his expression more serious than usual. "I need to tell you something. Michael is dead." Sophia's hand stilled on the keyboard. "What happened?" "Car accident in Phoenix. He was drunk, ran a red light, hit a telephone pole, died on impact." Alessio paused. "I wanted you to hear it from me before the news reached you some other way." Sophia waited for grief or sadness, or some emotion beyond the strange numbness spreading through her chest. "Was it really an accident?" "Yes. My people confirmed the police reports. There was no foul play, no indication of anything beyond Michael being drunk and making yet another poor decision. It was genuine tragedy brought on by his own choices." "Should I feel something?" Sophia asked quietly. "Should I be sad or relieved, or I don't know what I should be feeling?" "There's no should in grief, Sophia. You feel what you feel, and that's enough." Alessio crossed to her desk and leaned against it. "Do you want to tell Emma?" "No, she's 4 years old. She barely remembers him as it is. I'll tell her someday when she's old enough to understand and process it, but not now. Right now she's happy and safe and building a life that doesn't include the trauma of that relationship. I want to protect that for as long as I can. I think that's wise." They sat in silence for a moment, and Sophia realized with some surprise that what she felt wasn't grief for Michael. It was grief for the person he could have been, the father he might have been to Emma if he'd made different choices. But grief for who he actually was? No. That well was empty. "Thank you for telling me," she finally said. "Of course." Alessio stood to leave, then hesitated. "Sophia, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Are you happy? Here, I mean, in this life we've built. Is it what you wanted?" Sophia thought about the question, really thought about it. She thought about Emma's laughter echoing through the halls, about the satisfaction of solving complex problems at work, about evening conversations by the fireplace, and the absence of fear that had colored every moment of her old life. She thought about trust and safety and belonging. "I'm happier than I ever thought I'd be," she said honestly. "This life, it's not what I expected or planned for, but it's better than anything I could have imagined for myself or Emma. So yes, Alessio, I'm happy, truly happy." The smile that crossed his face was genuine and warm. "Good. That's all I wanted to know." As spring turned to summer and Emma finished her first year at her new school with excellent grades and a stack of artwork Sophia proudly displayed in her office, Sophia found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. One wrong text message, one moment of exhausted desperation, one accidental connection that had changed everything. She thought about the woman she'd been 6 months ago, broken down by poverty and fear, struggling just to keep herself and Emma alive, convinced that this was all life had to offer. That woman felt like a stranger now. In her place was someone stronger, more confident, more capable of protecting what mattered. On Emma's 5th birthday, Alessio threw a party that rivaled professional events. The entire East Lawn was transformed with bouncy castles and face-painting stations, and a petting zoo that made Emma scream with delight. Her classmates came with their parents, and Sophia found herself making small talk with other mothers who had no idea about the complexity of her life, who saw her as just another wealthy mom with a beautiful home and a well-adjusted daughter. It was perfect camouflage for a life that remained complicated beneath the surface. That night, after the guests had left and Emma was asleep surrounded by new toys and still wearing her birthday crown, Sophia found Alessio on the terrace overlooking the grounds. "That was too much," she said, but she was smiling. It was exactly enough for a little girl who's been through more than any child should have to endure. She deserved a birthday that was pure joy, with no shadow of fear or poverty or instability. I hope I delivered that. You delivered magic. She's going to remember this day for the rest of her life. Alessio was quiet for a moment, looking out at the darkened grounds. "I want to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Okay? Do you ever regret it, staying here instead of taking the new identities and disappearing somewhere no one knew you?" Sophia thought about the question, giving it the consideration it deserved. "Sometimes I wonder what that life would have been like. Whether Emma and I would have been happy in some small town where no one knew our history. Whether I would have built something meaningful on my own without your help or resources. But regret? No. I don't regret staying. I don't regret choosing this life. I don't regret choosing you." She realized what she'd said a second too late, heat flooding her cheeks. "I mean, choosing to accept your protection, to work with you, not choosing you personally, that's not what I—" "Sophia," Alessio's voice cut through her rambling. "It's okay. I understand what you meant." But when she looked at him, she saw something in his expression that made her wonder if he really did understand, or if maybe, just maybe, he'd heard exactly what she'd accidentally revealed. "I should check on Emma," she said, needing to escape before she said anything else she couldn't take back. "Sophia, wait." She paused, her hand on the door handle. "I'm glad you chose to stay," Alessio said quietly. "I'm glad you and Emma are here. I'm glad I get to be part of your lives. I just wanted you to know that." Sophia nodded, not trusting her voice, and went inside. That night, lying in bed and listening to Emma's soft breathing from the next room, Sophia acknowledged something she'd been avoiding for months. Somewhere along the way, her gratitude toward Alessio had transformed into something more complex. Respect had become trust, and trust had become something that felt dangerously close to affection, maybe even love. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. This man who'd saved her and Emma, who'd given them safety and purpose and a family, who showed Emma patience and kindness, and taught Sophia that strength could coexist with gentleness. Of course, she'd fallen for him. How could she not? But what to do with that knowledge was a question for another day. As summer progressed and Sophia's role in the organization expanded, she found herself increasingly trusted with sensitive information and complex decisions. Alessio consulted her on property acquisitions, sought her input on personnel issues, included her in strategic planning sessions that shaped the direction of the entire enterprise. She was no longer just an employee or someone under protection. She was a genuine partner in managing the legitimate side of the Castelli empire. One evening in late August, Alessio called her into his study with an unusual urgency in his voice. When she arrived, he was standing by the window, his posture tense. "We have a problem," he said without preamble. "One of the property managers has been skimming money from rental deposits. It's not a huge amount, maybe $20,000 over 6 months, but it's a test. Someone's seeing if we're paying attention, if our systems are robust enough to catch this kind of theft." "Who is it?" Sophia asked, her mind already running through the managers she worked with. "Stephen Patterson. He manages the portfolio in Brooklyn, about 30 units, mostly rent-stabilized apartments in neighborhoods that are gentrifying. He's been with the organization for 5 years, always seemed reliable." Sophia pulled out her tablet and called up Patterson's files. She'd worked with him several times, always found him professional and competent. But as she reviewed his recent reports with new eyes, she started seeing patterns. Small discrepancies in deposit amounts, maintenance invoices that seemed slightly inflated, tenant complaints that had been dismissed rather than investigated. "He's smart about it," she said slowly. The amounts are small enough not to trigger automatic flags in the system. But you're right, this feels like a test. Like he's seen if he can get away with small-scale theft before escalating to something bigger. What would you do? Alessio asked. If this were your decision to make? Sophia thought carefully. I'd confront him directly. Lay out the evidence, give him a chance to explain or confess. If he comes clean and agrees to repay what he stole, I'd consider a second chance with very strict oversight. If he denies it or tries to make excuses, he's gone immediately and we pursue full legal action. And if he's not working alone, if this is part of a larger scheme, then we use him to find the others, offer leniency in exchange for information, but we make it clear that this kind of betrayal has consequences, and those consequences will be enforced. Alessio was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. That's exactly what I would do. You're learning, Sophia. You're not just learning the business, you're learning how to think like someone who runs it. Is that a good thing? It's a necessary thing. This world doesn't reward weakness or naivety. It rewards people who can make hard decisions based on incomplete information and live with the consequences. You're becoming one of those people. They confronted Patterson together the next day. Sophia laid out the evidence while Alessio watched in silence, and Patterson's face went from confident to pale as he realized how thoroughly they'd documented his theft. He confessed immediately, naming 2 other managers who'd been part of the scheme, and agreed to repay everything plus interest in exchange for avoiding legal action. You're done working for this organization, Sophia told him, her voice calm and cold. You'll have recommendations for work elsewhere. Nothing that hints at why you left, but you will never work for a Castelli enterprise again. If you violate that agreement, if you speak publicly about what happened here, if you cause any problems whatsoever, the legal action we're currently waiving will be pursued with full force. Do you understand? Patterson understood. Later that evening, after Patterson and the 2 other managers had been dismissed and their positions filled with people Sophia personally vetted, Alessio pulled her aside. You handled that perfectly, he said. Firm but fair. Clear about consequences but not vindictive. That's leadership, Sophia. Real leadership. I learned from the best, she replied. No. You learned from experience and instinct. I just gave you the framework. The rest is all you. As fall arrived and Emma started kindergarten, still at the same school, still thriving, Sophia realized she'd been living in the mansion for almost a year. A full year since that desperate night when she'd accidentally texted the wrong number and set everything in motion. A year since her life had been nothing but poverty and fear and exhausting struggle. Now she had a career she loved, a daughter who was healthy and happy, and a home that felt like it had always been hers. She had friends in Maria and Patricia, and even Marco and Vincent, who'd transitioned from intimidating bodyguards to something like family. She had purpose and stability and the kind of safety she'd never imagined possible. And she had Alessio, whose presence in her life had become as essential as breathing. One evening in October, Emma was at a sleepover with one of her school friends, a first that had required extensive security vetting but that Sophia had ultimately allowed because Emma deserved normal childhood experiences. The house felt strangely empty without her laughter echoing through the halls. Sophia found Alessio in the library, reading by lamplight, and settled into the chair across from him. Strange, isn't it? She said. How quiet the house is without Emma. Very strange. I've gotten used to hearing her running through the halls or singing to herself in her room. The silence feels wrong. They sat quietly for a while, the comfortable silence of 2 people who'd learned each other's rhythms and no longer needed to fill every moment with words. Alessio, Sophia finally said, can I ask you something? Always. Do you ever think about having a family of your own? Children, I mean. A normal life that doesn't revolve around business and security and managing an empire? He set his book aside and considered the question. I used to. When I was younger, before I fully understood what being a Castelli meant, I thought I'd have a wife and children and a home separate from all of this. But as I got older, I realized that's not realistic for someone in my position. The risks are too high, the complications too severe. Anyone I brought into my life that way would be a target, a vulnerability, and after what happened to my mother, I swore I'd never put someone I loved in that kind of danger. But Emma and I are in that kind of danger, Sophia pointed out gently. We're part of your life. We're vulnerabilities. You're different. How? Alessio was quiet for a long moment, and when he finally spoke, his voice was softer than Sophia had ever heard it. Because you were already in danger when I found you. Because protecting you wasn't a choice to expose you to risk, it was a choice to mitigate risk that already existed. And because somewhere along the way, I realized that having you and Emma in my life wasn't a vulnerability. It was a strength, a reminder of what I'm working to protect and build, a reason to be better than the violence and darkness that comes with this world. Sophia's heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. Alessio, what are you saying? He stood and crossed to her chair, kneeling down so they were eye level. I'm saying that I care about you, Sophia, more than I should, more than is probably wise, but also more than I can deny anymore. I'm saying that this past year, watching you build a life here, watching Emma grow and thrive, working alongside you and seeing your strength and intelligence and determination, it's been the best year of my life. And I'm saying that if you feel even a fraction of what I feel, if there's any possibility that you might want this to be more than just a professional arrangement or a protective custody situation, then I'd like to explore what that might look like. Sophia couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only stare at this powerful, dangerous man kneeling in front of her and offering her something she'd been afraid to even hope for. I feel it too, she whispered. I've felt it for months. I was just scared to say anything because I didn't want to ruin what we have. I didn't want to risk Emma's security or my job or this life we've built by making things complicated. Things are already complicated, Alessio said with a slight smile. What's a little more complication between two people who've survived everything we've survived? Sophia laughed, the sound breaking through the tension in the room. That's true. We've definitely been through worse than trying to figure out if we have feelings for each other. So what do you say, Sophia Ellis? Are you willing to take this risk with me? She thought about everything that had brought them to this moment. The wrong text message, the danger, the hard decisions and difficult transformations. The way Alessio had given her and Emma not just safety, but purpose and belonging and family. The way her heart had slowly, inevitably, fallen for this man who'd saved them in every way that mattered. Yes, she said, I'm willing to take this risk. I'm willing to take any risk, as long as it's with you. Alessio smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his entire face, and stood, pulling Sophia to her feet and into his arms. When he kissed her, it felt like coming home and stepping into adventure all at once. It felt like the beginning of something new and the culmination of something that had been building since that first night. It felt like exactly where she was supposed to be. They stood there in the library, wrapped in each other's arms, while outside the October wind whispered through the trees and the house settled around them. Somewhere in the city, Emma was laughing at a sleepover with her friends, safe and happy and loved. Somewhere in the distance, the world continued with all its complexity and danger and unexpected beauty. But here, in this moment, everything was exactly as it should be. When they finally pulled apart, Sophia looked up at Alessio with a smile. So what happens now? Now, he said, we figure it out together. We build whatever this is going to be, one day at a time, one decision at a time. We protect what matters, you, Emma, this family we've created, and we stop being afraid of what might go wrong and start embracing what's going right. I like that plan. Good, because I'm not letting you go, Sophia Ellis. You're stuck with me now. Promise? She asked, only half joking. Promise, he replied, completely serious. You and Emma are mine to protect, mine to care for, mine to love. If you'll have me. We'll have you, Sophia said. We already have you. We have for a long time now. And standing there in the library of the mansion that had become their home, wrapped in the arms of the man who'd saved her and her daughter in every way that mattered, Sophia Ellis felt something she'd almost forgotten how to feel. Complete and total peace. The wrong text message that should have destroyed her life had instead given her everything she'd never known she needed. Safety and purpose, and family and love. Real love. The kind that was built on trust and respect and shared survival of impossible circumstances. This life wasn't what she'd planned. It wasn't what she'd expected, It wasn't even what she'd thought she wanted when she'd been struggling in that cold apartment in Queens, desperately trying to keep herself and Emma alive. But it was better than anything she could have imagined. And as Alessio held her close and whispered promises about their future, Sophia knew with absolute certainty that she'd made the right choice. Not just in staying, but in trusting, in risking, in opening her heart to the possibility of something more. One wrong text had brought her here, one right choice, and another had let her stay. And now, finally, Sophia Ellis and her daughter Emma had found what they'd been searching for all along: a home, a family, and a future where they could finally, truly breathe.